I'm Ron Bennington, Gail Bennington, on maternity leave. As I said earlier this week, it's hard to believe that Juliet is 2 months old. 2 months old. 2 months old. Crazy. Still waiting for Earl to buy her like a little something, just even if it's a pacifier, something, Earl. It's to show you care.
Care about the baby?
A tribute. That's all we're talking about. Just a tribute. Doesn't have to be big. I'm kidding, Earl. You told me black people don't buy presents.
We buy presents. Okay. We buy things.
I'm taking this personal then. Now now I'm taking this personal. Vito, so you had a little faux pas in the opening. That's always your worst thing, right?
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's when my voice feels shot. Mm-hmm. I get in my head and I hear like my voice not at its top level, and then I'll stumble on a word.
And then you just everything falls apart.
Yeah, because I'm just in my head about my voice.
Yeah. You remind me of a guy that in baseball that's called the yips.
Yeah.
You just got a little case of the yips. You forgot how to throw to first base. And you hesitate and you're like, I really want to throw well. And then you put it in the stands. Now, today we are doing the Ricky Gervais Unmasked. So, Chris, you said we've got to shut everything down because you need time to set this up. You told me that you're a bag of nerves because this is the most important Unmasked you've ever done.
In the 11 years that I've worked with you, Ron, this is definitely the most important. So I want to make sure everything goes correctly.
Now, by everything, you mean 2 chairs and 2 microphones. What other pressure do you possibly have on you?
There's check-in, there's guest lists,
that all happens before I get there.
Yes.
I've never seen that. Seems very, very easy to me.
You don't have to worry about that. Don't even think about that. That's my job to think about.
Okay. So you're checking people in,
making sure people are sat correctly. I just want everyone to have a great
time. Do you
time.
realize that this is at the Cellar, and the Cellar does something like 78 shows a weekend, not even counting during the week. These guys can do a show drunk because I've seen them do it. Man, I was, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's NYU being back, but that street is like fucking Mardi Gras every night now.
Yeah, when college starts back up, I know in that area of the Village, because like all the kids are like back on orientation, and the first few weeks everybody's just pumped to go out.
I think they're kind of showing off that they're a hard partier with their new friends.
Yeah. You don't want to look like the softy that can't hang.
All right, so because of that, we're going to play 2 Unmasked based on the thing that we're doing on Friday. And this is the beginning of SNL, right?
Yeah, it's the premiere this Saturday.
And who saw out of nowhere, Keenan? The longest guy who's ever been on, 37 years he's been on Saturday Night Live, and he didn't get a goodbye show.
So he's officially gone from the.
Yeah, he got it. They offered him a show. That's their way of going. Okay, you know what I mean. What do we want to do this respectfully? You get in the pilot.
He was the longest running person of like the modern time, right? Like
anytime,
longest cast. Damn.
The guy who is the announcer now was
Daryl Hammond.
Yeah, he was there for a long time, but he's not even there. He just records his thing and doesn't go in.
Wow. Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah.
Like, cause
he's an intense dude. That's something we probably should have played this week, because when he did the show, he told like they were, he was getting not locked up, but in some kind of mental institution kind of help, even while he was on that show.
Yeah, I think he used to live in my uncle's building. My uncle's a super in it. He said he could be really.
Wait, do you think that the super is that makes it your building?
Well, like the building.
What did he say? Something about his plumbing? I don't know whether
he said he was
losing his hair or he was dropping paper down there, but he was not an easy tenant to get along with.
Just an intense dude, like you just said.
Yeah, he is. He's an intense guy. He's ridiculously talented. And my belief is all of us suffer from some kind of mental illness. Some of it is just like a head cold. Some of it, is like an intense illness. But all the things that you see, crime and addiction and just fucking road rage, and you know what I mean? Like, people are just not healthy mentally. That's my own belief.
I'm definitely not mentally healthy. I mean, last week I talked about
that one without even saying, Chris. You're sick in so many different ways.
Oh yeah, there's mania, there's addiction. Last week, rage. Last week I talked about biting my cell phone out of anger because it wasn't charged.
I was on a Ouija board 6 months ago, and I asked the question. This was at a party. How am I going to die? And it came back, Chris will stab you to death. So I already know. You are my death.
Don't trust that Ouija board.
I trust every Ouija board.
Oh, man, it's not real.
Do you know when I was a little kid, this goes to show, first of all, Ouija board, some people say it is just scary dark arts. Like, Earl, are you comfortable around a Ouija board?
Not really.
But they sell it in toy stores.
Just
you know what I mean?
Hasbro.
Yeah. I thought it was like Parker Brothers.
I was just saying like one of those companies.
Well, it's a very important thing to get the brand correct. We could be sued. But you know the question, me and my cousins, because I never had one, but I had girl cousins, and they always, every time we had a family thing, like, let's go use the Ouija board. Don't tell anybody. Let's go upstairs and use the Ouija board. The only person that we asked for every single time, JFK. JFK, are you there? Because that was like the lingering, you know what I mean? Like, that was like the 9/11 of its time, but I was too little to have known, like the whole, everyone knew where they were.
Yeah.
That was like before me, but that lingering thing of life, and the adults were still bummed about it and stayed like, whoa, we wouldn't be in fucking Vietnam if JFK was still alive, or Dylan definitely would have went to Woodstock if JFK was still alive. That's the kind of thing adults said. So we always asked for JFK.
Did he ever answer?
Yeah, because you're pushing the thing around. It's, The one time, we were playing with the Ouija board. It was right after Christmas, and it was the house that I was born into, but now we'd sold it to my aunt, so I'd always go back there with my cousins. It was in Chester, and it said that the Cowboys were going to beat the Eagles that Sunday, and I remember there was snow on the ground, and my uncle took the Ouija board and whipped it out the fucking backyard that had to go like fucking 20 yards and just disappeared into the snow.
That's a perfectly fine reaction.
That's how I was taught to hate the Cowboys. Even before I understood football or who was playing, just we hate them. America's team, but also the team that America hates. All right, so we're going to play some other Unmasked today. Jay Mohr, which we haven't played in years. One of the original Unmasked, and quite frankly, one of the funniest people on the planet. We haven't seen him back here in New York forever. He is a West Coast dude.
Yeah, last time he was supposed to come in, he had some issue with his teeth, and he couldn't even make it.
What's with you with this detail work?
You're
the announcer, not detail guy. I don't want to sit around and tell everybody he needed a root canal.
Is this Dish?
Nobody's. Yeah, enough of this rumor mongering.
I'm
Vito.
sorry. I missed that I didn't get to see him.
Is tonight the winner of Big Brother?
Yes, tonight is the finale of BB20. Probably going to be, I think it's pretty obviously going to be Casey and Tyler that go to the final two.
And who's going to win?
I'm back and forth on it. I want to say Tyler because I've been rooting for him, but Casey didn't make any enemies. But the jury the past few years has just kind of been unpredictable.
The thing about you is you won't make a fucking move. Chris Stanley is a guy who willing to put his nuts on the chopping block. Go ahead, Chris.
Cut my balls off if Casey doesn't win Big Brother 20.
You see? That's the way to do radio. Not sit there and go back and forth like this was a fucking seesaw.
I'm just going in one direction, Ron. That's the direction of Casey. She's a comp beast. She's going to take the whole...
One Direction is also your favorite band, right?
I love One Direction. All the boys.
Who's your favorite, though, out of all the One Directions?
Zayn would be my favorite one.
Ron, he left the band. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, you're talking traditional all-time
the original lineup of One Direction. Zayn's the guy.
The Beatles aren't together, but I picked John. Is that a problem for you, Vito? Or did John have a root canal that you want everybody to know about? Earl, you don't even watch Big Brother, right? You
No.
live it every night. You're watching over your shoulder for Big Brother. Earl, you like being back in radio, yes or no?
I love it. Absolutely.
You sure?
Love it. Yeah.
Because the guys have been telling me you haven't been very enthusiastic about it.
No, I'm just like, when I get acclimated, I just try to take a step back and listen and try to absorb and learn, really. Just keep my mouth shut and just try to get back into the groove of things.
He's been lethargic, Ron, and like the most excited I've seen him is when he got a snack pack from the vending machine and then started going over all the ingredients of the snack pack.
Wait a minute,
really
hold
excited
on.
about this
Hold on,
snack.
I didn't even know about snack packs. What's in there, Vito?
It was hummus, pretzels, and carrot. And Earl came into the studio and was just really excited, stopped everything to tell us, started reading the ingredients, and was like, wow, you don't see a lot with carrots inside of it.
I've never seen a vending machine with carrots in it.
Me neither.
And I'm not eating a vending machine carrot.
No.
That fucking makes me scared. I don't even think I want vending machine hummus. I think like hummus is something that some places do very well, but most places don't do well.
No, and then getting it from a refrigerated vending machine is disgusting. There were also grapes in it as well that he was very excited about.
Wait a minute, this is like a full meal.
It was
at the end of the day, it's like a full North African meal. Like this is something that you would order if you were in Libya.
Yeah, barely any carbs.
Isn't hummus kind of carby or?
Yeah.
A chickpea's a carb. I thought a chickpea's like a nut or a bean or something.
He might be right.
No, but it's it's fat. It has fat.
Are beans carbs?
Fiber.
Okay.
Beans are fiber, but like they're fat because like all like nuts. Chickpeas are a nut.
They're a nut and not a bean?
My friend who's allergic to nuts said he can't eat
fucking
chickpeas.
can't be friends with anybody who's allergic to nuts. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't even believe it's true that somebody's allergic to nuts. I think they want to stop other people from snacking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What else you allergic to? Popcorn? Can't go into a fucking movie theater? You all right, Chris? Somebody throw a nut towards you?
No, I'm allergic to no food.
Hey, I like the way your hair's getting long again, man.
Yeah,
you trying to be like fucking Vito?
No, I'm not trying to be like Vito. This is just my hair, and I had long hair before Vito ever did.
Yeah, but you know what? Your hair is much thicker now than when it was. Your hair, like as you get older, your hair should thin out, not get thicker. You had long, straight, like Native American hair when I first met you. It was beautiful hair, like Cher.
Yeah.
You look like Cher.
That was beautiful.
And now, man, you like a rockabilly wherever you go.
I think it was just from my last haircut with my Dominican barber. He just put it in the right direction.
I don't think that's
That
true.
doesn't make sense.
I don't think a haircut can make
No.
your hair thicker.
You can't make it like kind of like curly and
That's like fucking Vito goes to the barber and said, "Could you cut this as greasy as possible?" You say it's not grease; it's just sweat.
It's just pure sweat. I sweat no matter what the temperature is, and no matter
Are
how.
you happier that winter is on its way?
Yeah, 100%. I just can finally wear hoodies and sweatshirts and be less sweaty all the time.
Some people, they say, "Oh, summer's the best," but I think I hear more people complaining in the summer than I ever did in my life.
Well, because like you can't do anything about heat. Like when it's cold, you could just put on more layers, but when it's hot, you can't. You can only take off a shirt at one point. So
The thing about the cold is, it seems like people expect you to do less, which I really enjoy. No one will say, "Hey, do you want to go to brunch?" You're like, "Oh, it's so fucking cold, I can't." You know what I mean? I don't want to even go out in this freezing temperature. You know? Would you take the trash out? Not now. It's way too fucking cold. Earl, what do you like? Heat? Like African heat?
I love the heat.
Yeah, I
I
figured.
hate freezing to death. Anything beats freezing to death.
we didn't say freezing to death. We just said it was pretty cold.
No, I mean, like,
No, he means cold is freezing to death. He's going to say
Yeah,
there's
like-
two temperatures, extreme heat, extreme cold.
I don't like flopping around in the snow. I don't like.
Is it
cold
because you
weather.
don't like cold hummus? Is that your big problem? A cold
I
carrot
think it
is
was
not
hummus.
your
I think
way?
it was a boiled egg.
It was definitely hummus. He was dipping the carrot into the hummus and said, hummus.
You thought you got a boiled egg out of the vending machine?
think it was a boiled
No,
egg
you
also.
didn't get a boiled egg.
That would be I mean, what is this, an Irish bar in the 1950s? Do you ever see like those old bars where they'll just put fucking boiled eggs on the...
Yeah, like it's just a jar of fucking eggs.
And you're like, this is fucking fantastic. Get in here and get some protein while I'm drinking myself to death. That's a pickled egg, what you're thinking of.
I can't eat deviled eggs anymore because the last time we were in Austin, I ate so many deviled eggs with every meal. I can't stand the sight of them anymore. And I really enjoyed them at the time.
I've never had one.
I'm going to tell you something about the fucking hummus thing, and I think this is important. I say this. No flatbread, take the fucking hummus away. I don't want to put a fucking carrot or some fucking celery and think that that's a meal. It's not.
I do crackers. I don't like carrots or...
Crackers?
Yeah, like.
What are you doing it at home?
Yeah, at home.
Because no fucking restaurant has ever handed out crackers. Why don't you just say you like peanut butter jelly triangles? These are tasty. Earl, you're the first person here that loves this place for the snacks. And that's great to me.
Yeah, I love everything about this place. I'm really happy to be back. Really happy.
You know, and then before we do Jay Mohr, we're going to play Tom Davis. He was one of the original writers. He turned out to be Dan Aykroyd's best friend after Belushi died, I guess. And he says in this Unmasked, and he's one of the guys that's willing to talk about all the early drug days and all that. And he said that at the time it was Senator Al Franken. That Al Franken not only could do acid, but was very, very good at it. Because I tried to say, was he a weak head? Which we used to call people who would ruin everybody else's acid trip. Like, we okay? You know, did something happen to my mom? Dude, we're fucking, you know what I mean? We're going to be in this for 12 hours. I don't need you running through all your anxieties. You got to fucking chill out. But he said, no. This fucking guy was extremely good at tripping, which always impresses me.
That's very surprising because also I'm guessing the acid was much better then.
Everything was much better then. Okay. The coke was much better then. The only thing that wasn't better was the meth. The meth now is on a level that nobody can fucking deal with. And a lot of that happened after Breaking Bad. And I don't know why anybody would want to do that. I don't want anybody to do more powerful meth. It was always a horrible Nazi drug, but I did a lot of it in my life, a real lot. What we used to call crank at the time. And I was just talking about this on Dean Del Rey's show. And this is another reason I hate the summer. You were crank back then, which we used to chop up and snort like you do coke, like the kids do nowadays with coke. But in the summer, it would liquefy in your fucking little baggie, in your little coin baggie. And so you'd had to drink it down. And it was the worst fucking taste that you can imagine. Some say worse than cum. Some say that it was a more disgusting taste than cum. And yet we still did it. Sure. We still did.
There's different kinds of Molly, and sometimes they'll have random drugs in it, sometimes meth or whatever, and you have to eat it, and it tastes fucking horrifically bad.
You can't swallow it?
I guess you can. They will put it in a pill, but they say like eat it and taste it is the best way to get the high.
Yeah.
And put it under your tongue?
Yeah. And then
it was always the thing, go under your tongue with something.
Yeah, and it's just still gonna eat it though. I mean, it's fucking horrific tasting, but whatever.
You're gonna do it.
I did a bunch of meth by accident one night.
Cool.
And then I went through my tongue because I was just going like that.
Yeah.
I had to go to the doctor, and then I fucking tested the drugs that week and found out it was just pure meth.
Cool.
It was not. It was.
You enjoyed some meth.
I mean, you had
the fucking experience. What you needed was gum, son. A fucking simple pack of gum, and you would have said, "Get me more of that meth." We were like little kids when we used to do speed, and there would always be a thing where you just couldn't fucking sleep at night, and you went and tried to knock on your friend's window. You up? He's like, "Yeah, I'm fucking up, man." Jesus Christ. We were too fucking stupid. That's why I always say to kids, wait a couple of years before you start really getting into hard drugs, you know?
Yeah.
Don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're still playing hide and seek, no drugs. Although hide and seek on acid is one of the funnest fucking things that will ever happen to you.
That sounds amazing. I never did that.
I did, and I was fucking hid for 3 days. And guess what? Why I was hiding?
Yeah.
Later, I found out that I was it.
Oh my God.
So that's why nobody found me. I just fucking counted and ran behind a bush and stayed there. So Tom Davis and then Jay Mohr. I don't know whether you guys even know this, but Tom Davis, when he died, it was in Aykroyd's house, surrounded by Aykroyd's family. They took care of him. I always find stuff like that touching. It was Aykroyd's daughters.
I didn't know that story.
Do you see how Long Island that I said daughters? His daughters came over. Poor Jeffrey tried to get back in the building this week. He was begging me.
He is persona non grata.
Then he asked me, he had one of the vice presidents. So I said, and he really wants to drop off a present for the baby because he's not like Earl. He likes to pay a little tribute. So the thing is, I said, well, just let me know this week. I'll have an intern run down and pick it up. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to meet with me. And I go, I can't really meet this week. I'm doing a lot of Ricky Gervais prep. I didn't realize Ricky Gervais has been the hardest working man. You know, since he had that show, the number of projects that he's done, unbelievable. I can't keep up with it all. And he goes, well, can I come down there? And I go, well, SiriusXM security is going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's your big problem. They're going to be on you like you were trying to get in the airport. You're on the no-fly list. And you can't get it fixed for him, huh, Chris? He asked me if you could.
I've tried in the past and I've been told absolutely not.
Can he get a meeting to plead his case, a phoner? That's the last place that we left it.
I don't think we can get that. I can go back and see if that's possible, but I don't believe so.
I want you to go back and say it, but say this is all me. Ron doesn't even know about this.
Gotcha.
Ron supports the company. As you know, he was the lead man on the Pandora deal. Yeah, they call me the Rainmaker down the hall because I'm always raining cash for everybody. Here's the way that I like to make a giant business deal. So both sides are happy, you know, everybody feels like a winner. That's my negotiating way. Both sides kiss me on my way out the door.
It's like an art of the deal.
I didn't read that. Okay. Neither did Trump. That guy said that Trump didn't even help him with it. Now, here's the thing, and I've been through a lot of deals. I don't know whether you guys know this. I'm the guy who got Steve Jobs back at Apple. I went to George Lucas, got him to sell the Star Wars franchise over to Disney.
It's amazing.
I did the same thing for the Marvel company. So I'm first man on many, many deals. And I like to start every deal with a joke. And sometimes I'll do racist, sometimes I'll do misogynistic. And it puts everybody at ease. And then when I say racist, or don't get upset, it's not always black jokes. A lot of it, I'll just give out the punchline, me go pee-pee in your Coke. Everybody at Marvel and Disney was fucking pounding the table, and they were laughing. And one of the guys, one of the heads, I don't want to say, one of the CEOs said, look, if this deal is as good as that joke, I'll fucking sign a paper right now, and you fill everything in. It took me 8 minutes to put that deal together.
Fuck.
And you're going to talk about art of the deal to me?
No, it sounds like you basically wrote art of the deal.
Yeah. I'm working on a deal right now I can't even talk about.
Okay.
What is it, though? Can you give us a hint?
I'll give you this hint. It's a way of selling one of the states to Russia. And I'll just leave it at that. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen.
Do we want to do that? Do we want to have Russia have a foothold in America?
You, first of all, it's not going to be in America, is it? I'm not selling Delaware to them. I'm not selling Iowa, okay? I am selling a state that doesn't touch us at all. I would go so far to honestly say, I don't believe they ever were part of America.
We're going to have to reorganize all the flags, though. If we lose the state, I mean.
Who says? Let's just keep it at 50. We know we're bringing Puerto Rico in.
I guess no one ever really counts the number of stars.
I never have in my life.
I
bet we could fly the 48 star of 1956 and nobody would notice. It literally looks the same. It looks the same as the 50 star.
I've never seen that flag.
You have seen it. You just don't realize it. Most mail places have not updated. You know what I mean? I mean, the flags are pretty expensive.
Oh, yeah. There's no way I'm telling the difference.
Yeah. I tell you right now, go down in front of any federal building, and it's probably the 48. I could probably even put up the original 13, which I don't think that we should have ever gotten away with. The better looking flag.
That was the circle stars, right?
Yeah, it's a nice fucking circle of stars. Look, I mean, that's our logo. Leave it like that. Now, have you guys ever seen the Bennington flag?
I don't believe so, no.
Put up Bennington flag. This was actually, this was a battle flag in the Revolution. There it is right there. So it's a 76 with the stars surrounding it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. A lot of people have given me this over the years. Earl is a tribute, as a way of saying, you know what I mean? Thank you. You know, Marvel's very happy with Disney. I remember I was the guy who got Disney to buy Miramax. Harvey Weinstein never spoke to me again. And it's also because I said, take your hand off my balls, mister.
You know about the Harvey thing a long time
I said,
ago.
take your hands off my keister, meester. And we laughed about it, but I was serious and he got it. You all right, Vito?
Yeah, just like I feel clogged up.
Yeah, I don't see you living long.
Oh, shit.
I don't see you living long at all.
If I'm breathing this heavily at 25, it doesn't seem good for me.
Yeah, I've got a lot of fucking listeners counting your breath. They claim that you're very, very breathy on the show.
I feel like it's easy to blame me for being breathy when you also have Chris being breathy at certain times.
Interesting.
I'm definitely going to outlive Vito, without a doubt. And
Does it matter? Neither one of you has any fucking life to begin with. Your quality of life is... Well, poor Vito works 7 days a week because of his stupid education.
Yeah.
Why are you paying that off when Chris doesn't pay a cent
Because
to anybody?
I'm a good person and I believe in paying.
How does that make me a bad person?
It makes
Look,
you...
There's this, I got a call. I don't know the number. Not going to answer it. I got no other problems other than that.
Because your
Guess
debts
what?
go...
I got more cash.
Your debts go to your family and the student loan debt doesn't get erased.
He is right.
It's a good point. I have family to consider.
Your children. Your future children.
Future children. You if you do sometime.
Vito, what age do you think you're going to be a father?
25 now. It doesn't look like it's happening anytime soon. So let's say 32.
Oh, you're going to be the older dad. Kids hate having an older dad.
Is 32 older dad?
Yeah.
It's like now it seems normal now. Actually, you know what? When I was a kid, everybody had like 30s parents, but now like working with children, it's young parents again.
Yeah. It's the time to do it. You know, get it out of the way. And their kids end up more like your buddy than some fucking buddy that you're putting pressure on. You represent me out there in that business world. I hate people who think their kids represent them. It's disgusting. Earl, now I get what you hated about slavery. I'm with you 100% now.
I think there was other variables involved with hating slavery.
Oh, what else am I missing?
Being a slave, being degraded and treated horribly, beaten.
Then why don't you get rid of your slave name, dude? Douglas is an English name. Why don't you take the name Earl X? I would fucking love that. Seriously, doesn't the fact that you have a slave name annoy you?
Of course it does.
You have the name of a rapist.
Oh, yeah, there's definitely...
Unless you think that your ancestors gave in willingly.
No, I mean, and I'm trying to... There's an idea... Well, not an idea. There's a theory, like, on some of my father's documents,
yeah,
there's 2 S's and not 1. And we're trying to figure out, is there a connection to Frederick at all? Maybe. I don't know. We don't know.
All right. You know what? We could easily run that for you. I mean, they have people who do that now.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating that, everybody who does these kind of things, that yours stops at a certain point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think we can only trace back as early
1930s jazz age.
As far as I think document-wise, I think maybe turn of the century, 20th century.
Well, I thought you meant this century.
No, not this
I was like, wow, 2000. You didn't have any idea. Yeah, let's do that, man. I'd be fascinated to know that. I'll try to get you on that PBS show. That PBS show, every time there's a black guy, I'm like, wait for it. Wait for it. This is where it turns sad.
Was that Henry Louis Gates?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That he hosts the show.
No, I don't. See, those fucking details are beyond me. Because there's like 7 shows.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
But one of the great Dallas running backs was on it. It wasn't Dorsett.
Emmitt Smith?
Must have been Emmitt Smith. And it's like, he was shocked that he came from slaves. I go, how could you be? I could be shocked. And literally that slave owner was his ancestor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is really, fuck. That's more fucked up than just being a slave, to know that unlike me, you have a slave trader that is in your bloodline. Yeah. Where mine is pure as pure can be, sinless, as far back as I go. What are we playing next, Chris?
That would be Jay Mohr Unmasked.
Jay Mohr Unmasked. He's the funniest, isn't he? We all love Jay Mohr.
Love Jay.
Love Jay. This was done years ago when he had, I don't know what he was doing in town, to be totally honest, but this was at the old Comics Comedy Club. That's where we first started doing Unmasked, when we were just XM. So are we breaking first, Chris? Or
yeah, we're going to break first, and we're going to come back, and you'll hear Jay Mohr Unmasked.
And if you tweet to him, say, please come back. Please come back to the East Coast. This is Bennington. Welcome.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
How are you?
It's good to see you. I've been going over your stuff, and I don't think that anyone in comedy has done as many different things that you have done with your career, as far as acting, doing stand-up, producing, and then you'll go off and do stuff like blogs and sports shows. What is that about? Are you always looking for something, or you just really need the stimulation?
I don't think I need the stimulation as much as I always want to see how many different things I can actually get a check for. I'm like, I don't want to leave. Like, wait a minute, there's money on the table in sports, in sports entertainment? It's never been something I've wanted to do, like a challenge. It's never been like, I wonder if. It's always been, oh, I need to write a book. Like, people need to know, what happened at Saturday Night Live. So I just kind of did it. I've never done it as a thrill seeker, like, let me see if I can pull off writing and doing webisodes for, a sports website, right, or having a sports talk show. It's always just been a logical next step. Like, why wouldn't I sit down and interview sports athletes? It's what I like to do. I think I'm kind of funny. I think it could work. So I've always just tried things that seem like to be the next thing to do. You need income. You need to find out a way to make money. You need to continue to do things that you love and that you like. And as long as people don't, slam the door shut and tell you that this is absolutely not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I get that it's nice to have different revenue sources, but you also go up and jump on stage for free, and I know that you pick up the phone and call radio shows.
I don't really go on stage. I don't really go on stage for free anymore.
You'll never pop up on stage somewhere?
For what?
Just to practice, to stay.
It's comedy.
It's right there for you, all the time.
Here we are.
So for you, you'll just hop up when it's time to do the set. There's no working it out, no thinking about it.
I'll make like a little set list. Like, I have one on my wallet if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at it.
I don't know if it'll make a lot of sense, but I don't.
So it's always ready. It's right there in your wallet like a condom.
Yeah.
Whenever you might happen to get lucky.
It's the safety net. I used to keep it in our safe at home, and my wife said, "Did these belong in the safe, honey?" Here you go. There's. Let's see where that's from. I think that's from Brea, California.
Well, this is tiny. All right, so here's the Canada. Right there you go, right there. This is so.
Canada's very long.
So you'll just.
That's about filling out your international declaration card when you land in Canada, and they ask you 4 questions. Are you bringing any exotic plants or animals into Canada? And it's a yes box or a no box, and it's like, all right, no. Are you bringing any explosives into Canada? No. Are you bringing any dangerous, deadly weapons into Canada? No. And then the 4th question. This is the one that's going to decide whether or not you get to land in the exotic fucking locale of Calgary. Will you be visiting a farm while you're in Canada? And I start thinking, what's on the farm? Like, why would they put that? Like, think of it, like explosives, deadly weapons, endangered species, things that are gonna die, things that will die, things that will make things die. Farm, just farm. So I checked no, but I'm thinking yes, right? And I looked at my friend Matt, who you met, who's here, and I'm like, what did you put for farm? He goes, I put no, but we're going, right? Yeah. High five, down low. Don't let them see us high five. They'll pull us over. I don't know how they would pull us over on a plane exactly, but it's a very long version of that story.
So you have that all memorized just off the word Canada.
Yeah.
That's all there for you.
Yeah.
Now, did you write that bit on stage, or you write that at home, or?
No, I thought of it. I don't really write anything at home, like writing it out. I just think there's like maybe 3 beats to it, and then when I'm talking it out on stage, you have to understand too. It's when you're headlining, you have much more time and space to mold and to work with an audience. Like when you're a middle act and trying to make your bones, you can't go up there and like work out a bit. Like you that's when you're doing it in front of the mirror at your house.
And you think you get that freedom because they know you. It's kind of almost like if you told a story to your friends.
Well, yeah, they're there because they think I'm funny. I mean, that's the whole game. That's the rat race in comedy. It's just to keep at it until you can get to a place. In my opinion, until you can get into a full room of people that are willing to wait out your pauses. And the pauses, the pauses make the symphony, and that's it.
So growing up, you're a kid, right, in Jersey, Jersey.
Once I was a kid, yeah.
And you were one of those people you knew from the beginning. You wanted to do stand-up.
I wanted to be an actor first. I used to put like little, like, those little like Andy Cap hats.
Sure.
And I remember I had an Andy Cap hat, and I took my sister's lipstick. I was probably like 6 years old, and I put it on my lips, and I came. No. As soon as you say lipstick, you guys are like, what?
Try doing that as panel.
No.
Never going to have you back.
No. It depends on your show, how it does. Depends on how Project Gary does. Somebody said came. Big deal. What? We all come and go. And I remember like going like, this is what it's like in the movies. You wear a little makeup, and I had like a hat on, and I remember looking in like my parents' mirror in the bathroom and saying like, come on, you guys, we gotta go. But like I was like a child, like a little bitty, like my son's age. And I was like putting on like little like Newsies hat and a little lipstick, but not too much where I look like a broad or something, And I remember like, come on, we gotta go. And like I always tried out for the plays at school and like junior high and stuff, and I always got like these kind of beat parts, and I was like, I should be the lead guy. Like I always had an inferiority complex. I was 2 years younger than the next kid on my street. Everyone on my street was 2 years younger than me, so I was always like, you had to fight, fuck, play football, tackle, it was on. Like no one took it easy.
It all comes 2 years earlier than everybody else has to deal with. Sure.
And then they go to high school, and then you're just alone. Like then you're just in 7th grade with no friends, and then that's I guess when comedy just put itself in my head and burned a earwig.
And a lot of that stuff probably, believe it or not, you were kind of busting balls on a 9th grade level when you're in 7th grade. So
my friends have always been older than me.
Yeah. But it makes you a little quicker.
Am I supposed to be like more funny? I don't know.
Yeah.
You didn't want to break it to me?
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything.
A waitress was going to hand me a cocktail napkin. We have a couple announcements.
I just got a little sign flashed to me. The kids in the hall killed. So...
I know that's not true because they've never killed.
Oh.
They're fucking Canadian. Give me a break. Fuck them and their geese.
And part of their act was, we're so much nicer than you. Okay, sure you are. Well, my friend's been to your farms. How's that? Like a callback, right?
Nice, yeah. They didn't come with you, but I was.
No, they don't have to. I got you with me. But what I was going to say to you, the fact that it's very funny that you brought up that, you're saying you felt inferior as a kid because your probably early reputation coming in was, and it might have something to do with your look, but people thought that you were somewhat cocky.
Oh, I was incredibly cocky.
Yeah, because you're hiding the fact that you didn't feel,
No, I truly felt I was better than the people I was watching. And I truly felt I can do that and I can do it better, and I just need a chance. And then when the chance didn't come, it never came when I wanted it to come.
Right.
And it made me infurious. It made me furious. I was infuriated and I was furious. So it made me infurious. I was infurious.
You're making up
when
new
that happened.
rules. You're so angry. New words are
new
popping
words
up.
and new rules. A word called rules for words.
Sure. So you're pissed off.
I was very angry, and I was always very angry in comedy. If we're moving forward to 18, 19, 20 through maybe 25. And it's interesting when I stopped doing comedy for about 3 years, about, I don't know, four years ago, maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And I started having panic attacks on stage. And that's the one place where I've always never really had anxiety, and I've always, that was like home. And I was talking to my wife, and I said, I don't know what it is. And I went to this cognitive behavioral therapist, and I'm trying to find my earliest memory. She goes, maybe it's because you were in an incubator too long and the lights remind you of that. You feel claustrophobic. This lady was really bananas, right?
That's in the box, by the way.
Yeah, that's thinking way in the box. That's literally thinking in the box. So and then I realized, I asked my wife, I go, why? I don't understand. I can't take it anymore. I hate it. I hate going up and I dread it. And she said, it's because you caught the rabbit. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, if you're a greyhound and you catch the rabbit every single race, what's the point of running? And it was after she said that to me, I realized I didn't know how to do stand-up when I wasn't angry anymore.
Sure.
So I had to just stop for 3 years. And now I don't think I've ever been funnier because, at the risk of sounding super cocky, but if I can sell some tickets. It's really who I am, and I love going up, and I love telling these great stories and stuff I just laugh saying the word stories because they're funny, and it's not me I'm not on stage trying to get laid and where are we going after this and this is it, we're headlining, we're in Cleveland at the Powerhouse, it's gonna be it's this is my show, it's gonna be great, we're all gonna have the best time, it's gonna be the most fun, and that to me is I think when comedy is the most fun.
Well, some people are afraid to lose their anger because, or stop being an addict or whatever that, big negative that they could bring to the stage. So you've got to find a new way of being you, or else you're going to fake being the angry guy. But I know guys who do that too.
But I was always faking being me because I was always so angry and I wasn't very happy. And then when you're happy, I guess that's the real you. And not to get so existential. Well, no, we'll get existential for a minute. But when you become truly happy, and there's I don't want anything. I don't really want anything. There's really nothing. I go, if only this, if only that. So when I go up on stage, it's really a pleasure to just sit in front of a couple hundred or 1,000 people and just tell stories about my kid or tell stories about something that happened to me and my wife at the Liberace Museum or something, just bizarre stories. And that just gets incredibly infectious and fun. It's where I don't know. It sounds so goddamn pretentious, but it's where it took me a very long time to get. It's exactly what Buddy Hackett told me. It's the exact timeline Buddy Hackett told me it would take to find out my actual voice, which is I didn't realize until this very moment. And I didn't realize till right now that I followed the exact timeline when he was alive, that he told me how long it would take me to actually be the comic that I am.
And how long did he say it was going to be?
He said, for 10 years, you're just up there, you're just trying to get laid. You don't even know what the hell you're doing. And he said, he said it would be about 17, 18 years.
And no young comic ever wants to hear that. That's the worst.
You're like, what do you mean? I'm killing. I kill every night. He goes, it ain't about killing, kid. He said, what's your monitor on stage? Did I ever tell you the story?
Wow.
I go, we're on the set of Paulie. To audition for the, can we sidetrack it all? I don't know the format, so I don't know if you
There isn't one.
Okay.
The format is Jay Mohr, whatever you want to talk about.
All right, listen to this. You've seen the movie Paulie. You can tell the real asshole. Somebody goes like, when are you making another Paulie? It's like, fuck you, your kid loved Paulie, go fuck yourself. It's a fucking good movie. Jenna Rollins is in it, you prick. How bad can it be? So I was like, how am I going to do the voice of this bird, you know? And they sent me, the studio sent me a videotape of a bird on a stick and a loop, like a 10-minute loop of just a bird walking back and forth on a stick. I'm like, this isn't motivating me at all, you know? And then I had a picture of my bird on my steering wheel in my truck, and I'm driving around Santa Monica going, I canceled the audition twice. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't know what a bird sounds like. And then finally my agent called me and said, this is never going to happen again. You just have to go in. It's Saturday. They're willing to see you on a Saturday. They can't book this. So you have a very good shot at it, which is my favorite time to go in. They've exhausted every avenue. There's 3 people they haven't seen. It's Anson Williams, son, and you. Just go in. So I go, I'm driving there and I go, well, I should just do a voice that's easy so I don't lose it in the middle of performing. So I'm like, well, I'm from the East Coast. I could do like a Jersey guy, like, hey, I'm a bird, give me the bull. I'm like, that's like Ed Norton. I'm like, you know, I'll go higher with it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, and I look at the bird on my dashboard and I go, this bird sounds a little like Buddy Hackett. I tell you, I like being a bird. That's a depth finder. You don't. I go, oh my God, I'm gonna do Buddy Hackett. I'm gonna totally get. No one's doing Buddy Hackett for a bird. I'm gonna get this part. There is no way I don't get this part. Like, I am fucking locked in. I'm going through fucking red lights to get to this building. I'm not making any of this up, Ronnie. And I get in there, I'm just sitting there in the waiting room. They're like, do you need some water? I'm like, nope, I'm fine. Like, would you like to look at the sides, the material? I'm like, nope, I got it. In my head, I'm going, I don't need nothing because I'm a bird named Paulie and everything's gonna be all right. And then they go, you're next, are you ready? I go, yeah. And they go, come this way. And the door opens and fucking Buddy Hackett walks out. That's a true story. And he walks out and he goes, how you doing, pal? And he walks out and I'm like, well, what do you do? I go, well, I can either just act like a psychopath, like it never happened, and just walk in and go, well, I don't know who was in before me, but I'm going to really give it a good try. Or I would just have to do my voice, which will definitely not work. So I did his voice and I got the part of the bird. And then one day we're on the set, and you know, when you make movies, you just got to sit around for a long time, and he goes, you know, I never got around to asking you this. I never understood how you got a movie doing fucking me. I go, I think they wanted a younger sounding you. He goes, they could have asked me. He's kind of sad.
It's great.
They could have asked me. He also asked me, what's your monitor on stage? So what's your monitor? He goes, you don't know what your monitor is? He said, your monitor is everything on stage that's not your act. That's not what you're saying to the audience. Like, when I was telling that story, I was just thinking about the story. So my monitor was 0. I could picture the building. It was all, but he said, when you first go on stage, your monitor is like 99, you know? And he said, because when you're doing your joke, it's the number one fear in the world is getting up in front of a crowd, you know? So the first time you're on stage, the lights are on you, and you're thinking in your head, why aren't they laughing? What am I going to say next? I can't breathe. Why are the lights so bright? Oh my God, why does she have to take an order right in the middle of this punchline? What is a punchline? What's next? He said, this was really amazing. I met Hackett after I knew everything, and he was really like a father to me, because he told me all the things I wish my father actually, you know, took the time to tell me. He said, think of, and this isn't about me, this is about Hackett. So he said, think about how talented you are, that your monitor was at 99, using 1% of the talent inside you. They still wanted you to come back. You're a special guy. And it made me, that was the first time where, like, Hackett really sold us on Jeff Ross, myself, Ralphie May, and like, we were like comics are brothers. And Bob Newhart, who you had out here, said it's the second smallest club in the United States. Headlining comics is the second smallest club behind Living Presidents in the United States, which I always found amazing. But Hackett said your monitor is basically every thought that's not what you're saying on stage. And as you get older and as you get better, your monitor will get lower and lower and lower. And he said, what do you think your monitor is now? And I said, at the time we were shooting the movie, I said, I think it's probably about 20. And I said, what's your monitor? And I thought for sure he was going to say, what? 0, right? Yeah. He goes, 1. I go, why 1? He goes, I got to know where the fire exits are. in case something happens. But after I see the exit signs, they got 100% of 99 the whole way.
Smart, man.
You say something.
No. I'm getting paid too.
Black girl.
So, by the way, one of the really great things about you too is that you got that gene that you can do impressions. You do impressions that a lot of impressionists don't do. Professional impressionists don't do.
Well, I always thought the impressions that the impressionists are doing are just like, who wants to hear Nicholson and George Bush?
Right.
You know? I probably could do them if I tried, but I don't know. It's like I'd much rather do Chris Penn and Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, and
I'd rather do the two different Pacinos, which always has fascinated me, which we've talked about. Because when Pacino started, he sounded like Tyne Daly and Cagney and Lacey. You know, he kind of walked around. He was real cocky. He'd say, "Yes, sir. All right, sir. We got it, Harv. It's okay. It's all right. You know, you got guys doing undercover work out there. They're wearing black shoes and white socks. That ain't gonna fly, man. That ain't gonna fly, man." And then all of a sudden, like somewhere around Heat, he turned into like Big Daddy. Big Daddy, a cat on a hot tin roof, Maggie. God's an absentee landlord, Kevin. Guys like you in my job. It's better standing up.
no,
Then you get to go, "Oh, I disagree." And you gotta make sure you chew all your words. Yo, you look good. Ron Bennington. God bless you.
now,
Yeah.
when you get something like that, how do you know? Are you working at it, or does it just kind of come?
I can either do it immediately or it's a fool's mission.
You got so much success in the very early stages of your career, more than 99% of the guys
99.9, right.
who jump up on stage. And yet it still wasn't enough for you. You still needed more.
If you're not happy, you're not happy. You're going to find the next step is, you know, there's always going to be a rung ahead of you if you want it there. Mm-hmm. You're always going to say, well, why isn't my name above the title? Why? Who are these people? Who's this guy? Who's that actor? I've never heard of him. Why has this guy got a name above the title? Well, how come I'm not making money like that guy's making? It just stems from your personal station in life. And if you're happy, you really just don't give a shit anymore.
So nothing could please you then, no matter what you were getting?
Obviously not.
No.
You know? Apparently not. Obviously not.
And I guess that most people have picked up your book, Gasping for Airtime, which is really one of the best books, I think, about like that underside of the American dream. You know, just how the American dream can turn into a nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you can't get, for a young guy, a better shot than saying, I'm on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, instant legitimacy.
Yeah, I mean, it changes everything. It's suddenly, you know, you're wearing the Hells Angels patch and no one's going to fuck with you. And for you, it turned dark fairly quick.
It didn't turn dark. I just showed up dark.
It was your fault.
I think it was everybody's fault. Mm-hmm. I mean, the show has no structure to it whatsoever. Mm-hmm. There's no reason the monologue should be written Saturday afternoon, considering it's a live show. And you would think a host coming in, you'd maybe have that for them Monday. You're like, this is going to be your monologue. We can work on it. But like weird things like that. When I didn't have a computer and everybody wrote their sketches on computers and emailed it to each other, whatever you do when you send documents back and forth. So it's like me and Dave Attell shared an office, and we were like the two a-holes with yellow legal pads and pencils, like writing sketches out longhand and erasing it. And then you go, where do you put a sketch when it's done? Like, where does it go? And you're going to ask somebody who's in the middle of, I'd ask, where do we hand in our sketches? And they were like, what? Like, what are you talking? Because they just hit a button and it gets sent to the magic sketch land. Jim Downey told me when I was there, you should go to the writers' offices, because they're all here tonight and maybe tomorrow night. Just stop in for 5 minutes. Just do a bunch of impressions, like get on their side. And just go from office to office. Let them know that you're funny. Hello, I know you were waiting for me. Like, I've been there 2 days. They're going to go like, who's this asshole that you keep popping in and doing Alan Arkin? That wasn't it. It's like, no, it's not Alan Arkin, it's Walken. Yeah, sure. They're very similar, Walken and Arkin.
So when you showed up, you felt like
the ocean. We have to fly over the ocean to get to Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yeah, the ocean. We have to fly over the ocean to get to Scranton. Are we still moving?
See, but this is the thing where maybe I'm on Jim Downey's side here, because all those things should have killed on Saturday Night Live. The stuff that you're doing in here, the stuff that you have together, you came in with those voices. It seems like, let's take this kid, let's find some sketches for him, and in 3-4 months, we've got a major league star here.
This is like a therapist's couch, because I'm realizing now I wasn't as cocky as I thought I was. Mm-hmm. Because if I really was as cocky as I said a little while ago, I would have went from office to office and went, gotta dance, gotta sing.
What's wrong with that?
I found it fucking humiliating and incredibly embarrassing. Like, I don't want to go into like Fred Wolf or, an office with Farley in. I'm going to walk into an office with Farley and go, hey guys, little bit. I mean, it's like...
But no matter what that uncomfortability would have been at first, and I agree with you, that they should have came into you and say, we want to see what you have to done. It should have been easy to get you over on that show. And the thing about the book that, I mean, it's a tough read, is just to see this thing keep spiraling and spiraling, and it's just eating you apart.
Well, I got a panic disorder very early on. I live with panic. But if you have panic, you should read the book, because I've long since made any money from it. So it's not a plug. But there's a wonderful world of pharmaceuticals out there, and you can get help. And it's just, I started having panic attacks while I was on Saturday Night Live. So not only did I not know why I wasn't getting in sketches and stuff, I thought I was dying. Like, I actually thought I was having a heart attack on a regular basis. And then it's live. So when you do get in a sketch, you get this anticipatory dread of what's worse than the actual panic, because it comes a lot, but what happens constantly is the anticipatory dread of, what if I get panic?
Fear the fear.
Exactly. I'm in a sketch. Well, what if I have a panic attack when I'm in the middle of a sketch? And I don't know if you remember the story about when I was finally in a fucking motivational speaker sketch, and it was with Martin Lawrence, and it was Scared Straight. We were all like derelict kids, and Martin Lawrence had like no teeth, and Farley was, yeah, Matt Foley, and it was him doing Scared Straight in a prison outfit. And I was like, I'm finally in a motivational speaker sketch. It's going to be the best. And I put on my, this pocket right here, that's where I keep all my Klonopin. In case I flip out, I take a little pill. I don't know. But I mean, even that is like something I had to call my psychiatrist and go, that's pathetic. Like, that makes me less of a man. Like, I have to carry these pills with me in case I flip out. Like, that's the faggiest thing I've ever heard. And she said, if you got asthma, wouldn't you carry your inhaler with you? And I would say yes. And she'd say, there's no difference. You have a neurological glitch. Some people get migraines. Some people get ulcers. You get panic. Enjoy. So carry the pills with you. And if you feel like you're going to approach, like last night I went to see Gypsy, and I took one before I went into the theater. Thank God. Patty LuPone kind of mailed it in last night, Ronnie. I think she got that Tony sewn up, and she was in there like, da-na-na. Everything's kind, you know the words. Yeah. So
you're a really good husband to go to that, by the way.
No, I love it.
Oh, you do?
I do like it, yeah.
Yeah, and then you're worried about looking gay. Okay.
I don't care about looking gay.
Now,
brother, man, I'm set. I'm set. So, long story short, I put my wardrobe on for the Martin Lawrence sketch. Finally, I'm in this wonderful sketch that we all want to. Who doesn't want to be in a Matt Foley sketch, right? And my pants didn't have pockets, and I had no place to put my Klonopin, my pills, and I had like a panic attack in my dressing room. So I did the whole sketch with 5 Klonopin in my hand, and I was just sitting, but I was sweating so bad that I thought they were going to dissolve in my hand. So I had to hold my hand open enough that air could get to the pills, but I couldn't open it enough where pills would fall out on live television, on TV. And then I started thinking, I don't know what my lines, I didn't have any lines. I don't know what my lines are. And I'm looking at the cue cards and there's a different color marker for each actor. And I'm like, which color am I? I don't know. And then suddenly it's, and we're clear. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened? But I mean, it's madness. And it's just stuff like that all the time.
There's your monitor is about 100, right? 110, right?
Yeah, there is no...
thinking about your heart, your lungs.
Well, I just don't let... People are going to think I'm a drug addict if I let these pills fall out of my hand. But I have to let air get to them, otherwise they'll dissolve and I won't be able... How am I going to... You know what? I'll hold them in this hand because the camera's over there and I can act like I'm coughing and I go put one in my mouth. It's just absurd.
And I'm thinking if you could have been a little older, a little more mature and got that Saturday Night Live gig, it would have made all the difference in the world.
Maybe not.
No.
Because no, I don't know anyone that's been on Saturday Night Live that when they started and they were just in the rotation. It's not like you get called up from AAA, you're the fifth starter, you're in the rotation the whole time. Ellen Cleghorn was kind of like the only one where like her first show, she had the first sketch. She was like Zoraida, the phone page with Michael Jordan. Like they just put her up like, we found a black person. There's not going to be a guy dressed as a black woman. We got a black woman. This has never happened. But everyone, like, you got to go through the year of and featuring Fez Watley. So I don't know, no matter how old I was, if I would be willing to wait my turn after that long, because it's really not different for anyone. Sandler, Dana Carvey, everyone, Farley, they were always the guy in the background for half a year, and I can't take it. That's not why I signed up. I didn't sign up to ride the pine. Like I got to be out there.
You got to be on as soon as you come in, even though if you could have paid your dues for that time and learn how to play, because
if I knew in advance, sure. But at the time, you're just obviously I'm a complete fucking failure. Right. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a fucking bailiff.
Right. But I mean, you didn't have anyone in your life to say, look what happened to Mike Myers. He did this for 6 months.
I had Mike Myers.
Yeah,
I had the actual guys.
Been perfect.
And I said to Mike Myers, I said, I'm having like panic attacks. And he goes, you want to know what my office was? My entire first year here, the 20 weeks I was here, my office was the floor across from the elevator. And I go, why? He goes, because no one ever really told me you're hired. And I didn't want to bring up that I had no office because maybe they made a mistake. No one said like, welcome aboard, Mike. So Mike Myers sat with his notebooks across from the elevator on the 17th floor. And he just sat there and he wrote on the floor. And he would just hand stuff in and some things would get done. But it's not like, hey, good sketch, way to go. Because that would mean like you're here, you're a part of the community. And he said he had a tennis ball. And whenever the elevator doors would open, he'd throw the tennis ball from sitting down, Indian style, and it would hit the back of the elevator and come back and he would catch it. And I'd say, well, what would happen when there was people in the elevator? And he goes, that was the best. like people would be on their way up to the rainbow room. There'd be like 4 people and he would just go, and they'd all like, get out of the way. It was going thump, bump, and he would just catch it and the doors would close. So I did talk to him, and they tell you not to worry about it, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. But sketches get cut too, and you call your family and your friends like, I got a sketch on. And everybody's happy for you, and then it gets cut, and they stay up till 1:45, and then your sketch isn't on. They're like, wow, he's kind of turned into a pathological liar. He lies a lot. Every week he tells me he's on Weekend Update, and then he's not. And if Sandler's writing a song about his thumb. Left thumb, you're the one. I like you better than my right one. It's easy to be Sandler.
I know, but I don't think he's ever going to be friends with you now. Well, you'll never talk to him at Laker games.
I didn't say I didn't like the left thumb song. Schism? Flazoo.
So you would have been better off never getting the show.
No.
Or you're still going to run into this thing.
That's the rub. It's kind of like being governor. You're governor for the rest of your life. People, you walk into a party in your 80s and they go, hey, governor, how are you? I did the Tonight Show a couple years ago, and I don't know, 20 movies, and they go, my next guest was a cast member on Saturday Night Live. It's just, it's that measuring stick that I'll always be grateful for. And it was worth it, obviously. I mean, we're sitting here talking. It's interesting enough that we're sitting here talking about it.
Right.
But I mean, there's Farley stories and that I could make myself cry telling you, and like Hartman stories, and the last chapter of the book is really like kind of sums up that it was awful, but Jesus Christ, like who's that lucky to be someplace so awful?
Yeah, I mean, well, you go back to Farley, and one of those guys that, and he's been over 10 years now. He's been gone. People still have not stopped talking about him.
Yeah,
he comes up all the time.
I think he was. You could say like someone's the funniest person of all time, and I don't know, but he was an actual force. It's kind of, there's very few people that are so funny that it actually radiates, kind of like when you're on acid and you can see particles moving around. Like that was Farley. I say to you because I know you know.
Got a slight idea what that's about.
Like Farley was a guy, like he actually fucking hummed when he came in a room. His body was like this tuning fork, and it affected you, like you felt it too. And like he was just the most beautiful man I'd ever. My grandfather, my mother's father, is the most beautiful man I'd ever known. But after that, it's Farley. Like the guy was. It's as if the actual sun walked into the room. You'll never be able to fully explain Farley.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing because you go back to saying how unhappy you were when you also have this gift that has been given to you. You could say the same thing of Farley. He has a gift that not only could he make everybody laugh, everybody wanted to hug the guy, love the guy, and then he still had that unhappiness that seems to go comedian to comedian to comedian, that there's something that you pay for getting that gift. There's a downside to it. There's an empty spot.
But I'm not sure, like, with Chris, obviously it was addiction. And I know a lot of comics where whether it's a food addiction or a gambling addiction. I had a conversation with Hackett about it. I said when I was doing more sports on ESPN, I had my writing staff was all comics, and I would watch these guys every week get right up to being the best they could be, and they would just pull the fucking rug out from under themselves. Like it was like a goddamn Keystone Cop movie. Like, you're the funniest guy here. Why do you have to go get high and come back with no jokes? Like, I don't get it. And every comic I know does something where they get in their own way.
Sure.
Where they're their own. They are absolutely the number one reason they're not one step, at least 2 steps further along on the board. And I said that to Hackett, and I said, but the thing is, I don't know what mine is. I must have it because I'm a comic. I don't know what my thing is where I get in the way of myself, because I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing great. This is, 8 years ago. I'm doing great. But I don't know what my thing is where I sabotage myself. And he goes, I know what it is. You haven't figured out what you are yet. I said, what do you mean? He said, are you a comic or are you an actor? I said, I'm both. And he said, very long pause, and he said, no, you're not. So I wrestled with that for years.
Mm. And I mean, most of the addiction stuff that you're bringing up, it's still just self-medicating. It's going through the same thing that you were going with the panic, but instead of going to a shrink, you go to a bartender. It's guys just trying to turn that feeling off.
It's fucking maddening. Like, you just want to grab people and shake them and just say, what are you, like, just stop. Like, what are you doing?
Yes, sir.
Hello,
Jay
sir.
Mohr, it's an absolute pleasure to see you. I mean,
wow.
One of my favorite shows of all time is Action, and Peter Dragon is a classic character. And kind of when you talk, what happened? What happened? It was critically acclaimed. I mean, did you try pitching it to Showtime or anybody else afterwards? It was such a great show.
It was pitched first to HBO, and HBO wanted to own too much of the back end for the creators to sign off on that deal. So instead of caving into HBO, they said, well, why don't we shop it around town? They took it to Fox. Fox said, we'll take it, and you guys can keep all your points on the back end, and we'll just bleep out the curse words. So then HBO just fell off the planet at that point, because everyone was going to make real network money on the show. So it was critically acclaimed, as it should. I don't have to be modest about it. It was a fucking fantastic show. It's truly, in my opinion, one of the great shows. it was opposite Friends. And then WWF was on UPN. So you talk about, so no one watched it. The reason Action got canceled is because no one watched it. I didn't know there were 6 networks until we took 6th place in our time slot for 13 consecutive weeks. Like, I had no idea that was and you go, there's not fucking 6 networks. You go CBS, ABC, NBC, WB, UPN. Oh yeah, there's fucking 6 networks.
You know what I love those? Like, people will talk about that show, and yet nobody will talk about Friends. No one ever says, "Oh, I love Friends," and yet it's on 14 times a day.
But I know
they must be just leaving their TV on.
I don't understand why. There's some shows I don't know why they're laughing, like an Eddie Izzard concert.
Oh,
I don't understand. He's obviously funny. You got to understand something about me. There's not a comic I begrudge. Dane Cook, God bless the guy. Carrot Top, whether you like him or not, he's a fucking great comic, because I don't know if you noticed, the seats are pretty goddamn full and it's a bigger room than this. God bless. So when I say these things, I'm not saying like, and that guy's a fucking asshole. I don't begrudge any comic what they're doing. I'm just like honestly telling you, I'm not sure. Like when I watch Sandra Bernhard, I don't know why they're laughing. And when I watch Friends, when someone goes, okay, a little too much information, and it's like a 4-second applause break, I go, what the fuck was so funny about that? That fucking Canadian scrunched up his face. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, and I know comedy pretty well. I know the math of it all, but I don't know why Jennifer Aniston going, yeah, that's, okay, I'm going to leave and come back in. And it's like this huge, long, like, Rachel's going to leave and come back in. Rachel. That guy sat down like he was done with his question. He forgot.
He just walked away. Just went somewhere else.
He said phooey.
Someone over here in the background. Yes, what do you have for us?
Hi, Jay. An actor trying to work my way out of the background.
Is that Mikey background?
That is Mikey background, yeah.
Well, you emailed me.
Howdy.
What's up, buddy?
What's up? Jane's Addiction? Huh?
He's working with Catherine Zeta-Jones downtown right now.
Was that right?
Yeah, a couple of nights ago.
How the fuck do we know that?
I'm flattered that you remember.
You think I'm a Ron and Fez fan?
What is your audition preparation like, and has that changed as you've become more successful?
I go in as if I'm shooting it that day. Like, I don't bring anything in with me. I dress. I don't like if I'm playing a cowboy, I'm not going to go in like with chaps and like a hat. But I'll wear like a flannel shirt and jeans. Like, I'll meet him halfway.
Just once, do the chaps.
I hate
Just one time that you don't want the role.
I hate when people say assless chaps.
Yeah.
Because there's all like they're all assless. They're fucking, like, yeah, you and your assless chaps. They're all assless chaps. Like you and your denim blue jeans. Or like, you know, so I'm not gonna, if it's like a Western, I'm not gonna go in like with a 10-gallon hat doing fucking rope tricks. So, but I'll wear like a flannel shirt and maybe a funny belt buckle and jeans and boots. But I always go in, I'll never hold anything in my hand. I'll never hold the material in my hand and read it. I go in like let's shoot it. Let's go. And if the fire alarm goes off, I know the lines. And if you start from page 3, I know what comes next. Like, I make sure I know it no matter what.
You enjoy that process. I mean, it's something that you do.
I don't enjoy getting to that spot because it's a lot of work. But once you're in, I like knowing that probably 90% of the people were going, stop. I thought you told, looking up and down from their pages, and I take great pride in being a professional and walking in like, I'm not fucking around. I want this part. Let's do it. It hasn't particularly worked for me.
Well, the 20 movies, some success there. Do you have that one role that you were so close to, you know you should have got, and they didn't give it to you?
Blue Streak, Martin Lawrence and Luke Wilson. It was mine, man.
That was yours. They
said, you only have to go audition once. And I said, all right. I mean, that's pretty good if that's your only one.
Yeah.
But other ones, you never know. And again, it's in that Mammoth book, True and False. Like, they know who they don't want you. They know who they want. And they're just waiting for those deals to clear. And if those first 5 or 6 people fall through, what's our contingency plan? let's call Jay Mohr or Matthew Lillard or like that middle. We're all. I'm serious. Like there's just this middle class of guys floating around that make a good living that aren't like giant stars. It's us. But when you go, do they want Matthew McConaughey? Of course they fucking want. They don't want me. They want that guy. He's fucking huge and gorgeous. But you know, so you got to do. You know,
there's no reason to say it. There's just no reason.
You don't think he's a gorgeous guy?
I didn't think you needed it.
Why, you're just kind of stuttering. You're looking around. You don't think Matthew McConaughey's gorgeous?
Yeah, I think he's beautiful. I can't get enough of him. And speaking of beautiful, here's a young gentleman for you.
Thank you so much. Jay,
do I know you from the message boards too?
No, but I used to be Mikey Bracken's bartender actually in Belmore, believe it or not. Shocking, right?
Jeez, it's like I know you.
By the way, that was your whole time. Thank you. That's all you get.
What's up?
I was going to ask, was there ever a moment on SNL when somebody like had a panic attack or dropped their lines and you saw it and you either helped them out and saved them or just let them twist in the wind?
There's a middle ground. Neither. I never saw anyone I saw people have panic attacks, but not like actually on the stage flipping out. But there's other, like Norm had a Klonopin pocket too.
Is that right?
But I caught wind of that like halfway through the second season. My doctor was and this is like kind of public knowledge because I already wrote it in the book. Like Sarah Silverman was the one that told me to go see her psychopharmacologist. And all of a sudden I realized this entire place is under medication. Like, I'm the only one that hasn't caught on yet. Like, go get fucking Xanax, have a Coke and a smile, you know?
Right. And I mean, that's one of the things that just like you didn't bring up some of that other stuff to people, you didn't go around saying, I'm having a panic attack. Maybe you could have got help.
You don't know what it is. You don't know what a panic attack is.
Right,
you're just dying. There is no diagnosis until you get up to that lady's office and she goes, this is a classic panic disorder. You need to take a pill. You'll be fine.
Literally, for me, first one, I just thought flashback. And,
really?
Yeah, sure. And I just thought, well, do the same thing as always. Some Miles Davis and look for trails.
I listened. You know,
wrote it right out like it was nothing.
When I was having you know what's amazing is I listened to Kind of Blue like a crazy person when I was first having my panic attacks. That's interesting. You said Miles Davis. I listened to Kind of Blue over and over, and I memorized like all of Bill Evans' piano.
Well, if you get into that bad situation, you don't have to pay attention to lyrics.
No.
So you really need something to guide you. This young lady over here.
I think we just keep talking about jazz, and like McCoy Tyner plays a great piano, one of my favorite things. But you know,
if Saturday Night Live asked you to host that,
hold on, again, like a big boy.
Do you know this guy?
No idea.
If Saturday Night Live asked you to host, would you?
If Saturday Night Live asked me to host, would I? You have to.
Would I?
Peg leg.
So that was your whole question? Would you host Saturday Night Live?
I tell them no! After what you put me through, I don't want my record sales to increase by 30%. Did you know that's a fact? If you do Saturday Night Live as a musician, it's 30%.
Right off the bat.
Right off the bat, 30%.
Well, remember when it used to be like hip acts and, they would bring out people, but now it's almost the number one song of the week every week,
Who's your favorite comic? Who's your favorite? Who's the best comic of all time?
Of all time?
Ever.
It would be tough not to say Pryor, even though that's become a real cliche on this show. But I think that he's the person who really brought the vulnerability to the stage.
I always said Pryor.
Yeah.
But then after watching Carlin's last special, it's like, I don't.
Carlin, yeah, it is. It's definitely. Here's where,
because Pryor's got that 1 hour.
Right.
That's fucking transcendental, never been done before. I got lit on fire. I got hit by a car. Right. My dog pissed on me when I was in the front yard having a heart attack. I was in the burn unit at the hospital. It sounds like a Metallica set list, not a comedy set list, right? And you're like, that's the hour. But then, like, every time I watch, like, Live on the Sunset Strip, I'm like, he's high and this is awful. Like, it's uncomfortable. And I have, like, Bicentennial Nigger and all this, hey, watch it, and all these other like albums like that. I'm gonna keep saying the N-word. That nigger's crazy. That's the name of the album. That nigger's crazy. Like, it's like I don't like. There's I don't.
But that's because he was working it out. He didn't have a prior to look at first, where everybody else had a prior to look at.
Who did the fucking Beatles look at? They were skiffle bands. I don't agree with that argument. That's the first time I've ever disagreed with you in our lives. The Beatles didn't have anybody to go, we got to be more like them.
I believe they had Herman's Hermits.
Take it back, Ron.
I think they had Buddy Holly. I think they had, Elvis. They had people that broke through for them. But I don't know if there was a before Prior, but after Prior, everybody walked up as Prior. Now, like the first album that I really paid attention to, I think, was Carlin's, the teacher thing.
Class Clown.
Well, yeah, that's
Occupation
that's
Fool.
the one that you just sit around and just memorize when you're a kid. When you walked out, no turning back for you the first time you walked on stage. You're like, I'm going to stick this out, because to me, the guys that end up being able to sit around and talk about their career, those are the guys that just don't give up.
It's all I want. The second I was on stage, the second I came off stage, I wanted to go back up on stage and do it again right. Like, I wanted to do it again a little slower and a little better. Like, and I forgot this line, and I wanted to go back up and do it again immediately. And I always, it's like your life going from black and white to Technicolor immediately. Like, this is why I'm such a fuck up. Like, I get, now everyone's looking at me and I'm talking and they're listening. It's great.
So you had your Wizard of Oz moment, did you?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I bought a little fucking Yorkie and I walked down a yellow street.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I was wondering if you could elaborate on your relationship with Tom Cruise during Jerry Maguire.
It was a wild weekend, and no, he was great. I guess I worked with him before he got like how people perceive him to be right now, which I guess is batshit.
Right, but I mean, you walked out there seriously. The thing about that, you had a small part in that. He's the biggest star in the world at the time, and you did what a lot of guys
Regis Philbin.
Villains can't do. You took him down in that movie. The thing that was great about that is that you made him vulnerable in that movie more than he is in his action movies.
I found him to be amazing. Like when someone talks about a college coach that got their act together, that's how I always talk about Tom, and how. No, we're not still friends. I've never had contact with him after. I haven't seen him after. But he was so cool to me and so nice. And he was such a nice guy to everybody. And it was nice to see a guy that was that big of a star be actually that just nice. Like, it's so easy to be fucking nice to people. And, and that was my first movie. Like, my first movie was with, like, James Woods. I'd be, like, I'd be in jail. I'd be, like, knocking off a like, hey, you fucking cocksucker. Who taught you to fucking do still photography, you fucking prick? But Tom was just nice all the time, and he was great, and he helped me a lot. And he was just really cool, and just, he was great. He was just fantastic. He was just fantastic. But you said something I wanted to comment on, but I forget what it was. Me being the villain to him.
Well, I thought that was the point. That role was supposed to go to Owen
Wilson. He had a deal because of Bottle Rocket. That was a Jim Brooks movie, and that was his part. They wrote it for him to fire Tom Cruise. But then I went into audition for the football player that was played by Jerry O'Connell, Cush, and I butchered my Texas accent, like my grandfather's Texan, and I went in there like, well, Jerry Maguire, I'll tell you. Big piece of straw in my mouth, doing my rope tricks.
Isn't it awful that all your stories that I really love you failed in?
Yeah, that's the ones I love too. It's no fun, like, yay. No, of course. That makes a good story. What a fucking zero you turned out to be that day. They had me audition to be the nanny, which was, I forget the name of the guy that played the nanny, who gives Tom Cruise the Miles Davis, John Coltrane cassette when he thinks he's going to hand him a condom. Mm-hmm. Cameron Crowe pulled me aside and said, this is the most cuttable piece of this film, and when you say it, I don't want to cut it. So just go in there and do it exactly how you did it, and I won't be able to cut it. You'll get the part. So he was like that cool. So I went in like, all right, I guess I'm going to play the nanny and Jerry Maguire. I didn't get that part. So then as I was reading the nanny part, and I had like long, like fucking stupid pro wrestler hair, and I didn't like, I used to put it in a ponytail, I had like a goatee. I was out of whack, man. And then I think it was like Richard Sakai. He's like one of the big producer who does the Simpsons stuff. Like maybe it was Jim Brooks. Somebody in that room of those three people said, "What about sugar?" And like the hair on my neck stood up. Like there's no way they're saying what I think. There's like I'm looking around for coffee. Like so like there's no. And like just bottled water. They meant, what about Bob Sugar? And they said, can you read for Bob Sugar? And I said, I would love to. And they said, can you go read it and come back in? And I was like, that's no way to get a part. And I said, you know what? Bob Sugar is a guy that deserves to be played completely. So if I could have like a couple days and really do it well. And they were like, sure, what do you need? I was like, I don't know, 3 days. I don't want to waste your time. They go, you want 4 days? You want 5 days? We don't care. Like, this is a fucking $80 million movie. What the fuck do we care? What do we care? We wash our balls and checks for billions of dollars. I'm Jim Brooks. That's Cameron Crowe. We got nothing but time. We've got Tom Cruise. Fuck everyone else. You might actually get this because we got Tom Cruise. We have such a star, you might get a part because it doesn't matter. That's how it goes. So I came back in and I did it, and I got the part. But it was like a big to do. They had to rescind their offer to the other guy.
Well, I wanted to, and again, I appreciate Jay Mohr came out here for us. But before we let you go, I feel really bad if we didn't hear some nice guy Eddie, if we didn't get a little Chris.
There is this girl used to work at one of Daddy's clubs, Lady Eve. Hey, let's move some cars. It looks like Sam's fucking hot car lot out there. The man you just shot did 5 years in a federal. Only for you I would do this because it hurts my throat. The man you just shot. Don't, I can't do it. I'm laughing, Ronnie. The man you just shot. Picture me in like a fucking awful sweatsuit. The man you just shot holding my big phone.
That was a major phone.
It was like the beeper in fucking Casino.
The man you just shot did 5 years in a federal penitentiary. He could have said my daddy's name and walked, but he didn't. He kept his mouth shut. He did his time like a fucking man. Now you're gonna tell me that guy is gonna decide out of the fucking blue to rip us off?
Who is it? Oh, you want to hear Tracy Morgan, baby? Yeah. I love that woman so much, I'm going to take her behind the middle school and get her pregnant. Yeah. I'm straight sugar and booger. Jay Moore's my uncle. There's a friend of mine, Bert. I told you about him earlier, but he was at Tracy went up to my friend Bert and goes, Bert, you want to go get nice? The thing about Tracy is the last sentence he says to you, it's like a homosexual come on, it seems like. He's like, yo, Ron, after the show, look, I love your show, Ron Bennington. You guys are legendary. But afterwards, me and you should go drink beers. We can have Heineken because they come in a green bottle.
Tom Davis here with us. 39 years of short-term memory loss is the new book out about your experiences with Saturday Night Live. And obviously, it was Franken and Davis for so many years. But you start the book with a chapter about Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd starts it for you.
I do. I'm not a celebrity by myself. I'm not famous enough to start like Charlton Heston started his memoir with "I Was Born." Now, I've in my memoir, it's I hope that I've written about the era of the times of my life and the generation that I'm very much a part of, and of course, Saturday Night Live figures really big into my book. And in fact, that is what I'm known for is writing Saturday Night Live sketches. I'm good at it. Mm-hmm. But I thought, well, maybe I should write a book, and then I'll be a real writer. And then the memoir started, and I discovered that my memory was really askew. It was really not good. Mm-hmm. And the first draft was chronological, but unreadable. But then I did see that I had themes in my life, and there's certainly been a lot of irony, and that's what I'm good at, is the irony. So it is intended to be entertaining, and it is, But the difference is I didn't make it up. I tried to tell the truth, so I do get in some trouble.
But why Aykroyd above everybody else? You worked with all these great people. What is it about Danny that made you want to start the book on his chapter?
He's probably my best friend. And we've been great pals since 1975. And so the first thing in the book, I thought, well, in 1976, Dan and I went to Easter Island for Christmas. And we, when we got back from that hiatus, we wrote the Coneheads.
Right. And you kind of get into this in the book while you were there. You just tripped, read books, got weird.
Yeah, Arthur Clarke's book Childhood's End was a real influence. But then some of those 50s sci-fi things that Dan and I adore, that was a big influence. Like This Island, Earth. Those guys actually do have those big foreheads, Brack and Exeter, you know, those two characters. And everyone kind of looks at them and like, yeah, you know, they don't notice. And then it just happened. We were... always wanted to do science fiction on Saturday Night Live, but we could never spend much money. We couldn't have too many multiple sets, or you know it. And so Lorne said, "Make it a family. Put them in a living room," which is brilliant. Lorne is brilliant.
You didn't just work with Al on a lot of these sketches. You would work with whoever felt like working on in a single idea.
I always wrote at least one sketch with Al. He and I always wrote one sketch with Jim Downey, and we usually wrote one thing with Dan Aykroyd, and Danny wrote with everybody. Danny really wrote with everybody, and he didn't get credit for the first year because they didn't want all the cast asking for a writing credit, but Dan wrote more than anybody, so they finally had to say, okay.
And he wouldn't just write for himself, he'd write for other people.
He wrote with other people and for other people. Nobody's ever done that show better than Dan Aykroyd, and they all know that.
There's certain people that can pull that show off and feel comfortable there, probably more than anywhere else in their career. And he seems to be that first type of guy who was built for that show.
Well, he had... he was a brilliant writer, tremendous comedic actor. He could do impressions, and he was a great supporting actor too. He didn't have to be the center of attention, and he could do completely different characters. He wasn't just a personality, and he can still do it too.
Now he obviously works so good with Belushi. Do you think Belushi would have been Belushi without Aykroyd there?
Oh yeah.
He was going to be a star no matter what.
But he probably wouldn't have gotten hired if Danny hadn't really pulled for him. Belushi came in and auditioned with the Samurai.
No.
he did Toshiro Mifune playing pool.
Right.
Miming the pool cue and the table and stuff, and it was brilliant. But Lorne, after he saw John, he said, "I don't know, that guy's going to be trouble."
Now you and Al had, of course, been working together, doing stand-up and stuff before then. Sent your writing into Lorne, but did you know any of the other players, or did you all just show up on Saturday Night Live not really knowing those guys?
We showed up on the first day. We got out of the subway at 50th Street and walked right over to NBC, and we went to the directory to find out what floor Lorne Michaels was on. There was no name of the show at that point. We just knew Lorne Michaels was going to produce a show, and we got in line at the directory. There was in those days they didn't have computers or anything. Right. There was a guy sitting back there who was the director of the directory, I guess. And the guy in front of us was this tall guy who asked where Lorne was, and it was Chevy Chase. So that was I saw the back of Chevy's head. It was my first meeting him, and then we went up the elevator with him, and we got up there, and there was a group of people I didn't know. There was Alan Zweibel and Michael O'Donoghue and Ann Beats, and Gilda was there, and Jim Henson was there with his executive with the briefcase and a tie, and Dick Ebersol was there wearing green Lacoste pants and loafers with no socks. And I had shoulder-length hair and a Grateful Dead T-shirt on, and I didn't know who those people were. And Chevy got the first laugh because Lorne started doing one of his talks about his theories on comedy and show business, and Chevy was behind him, and there was this mister for the plant. And Chevy waited till Lorne paused, and he went and sprayed the back of Lorne's neck. The first laugh, and Lorne loved it.
Right.
So,
and it's kind of interesting because, like, from your point of view, of course, these are memories, but to the rest of us, this is mythology. You know what I mean? It's almost like the start of the National Football League or something.
Well, mythology, though, it's fanciful, and a lot of it's made up, and I really tried to tell the truth in this book and to try to recreate some conversations. What happened is I do have a really good memory for detail, for remembering what people were wearing and who was there and what the weather was and what sandwich somebody was eating. And once I got the stuff like the dates and the sequence of events, my memory started coming back really well. It had atrophied like a muscle, and now it's really buff because I've been working it out. And the more you work on your memory, they will come back. I wake up in the morning and I remember, oh, that's that guy's name, and start writing it all down. And so if any of you are, memory impaired at all, there's hope. If you want to remember that stuff, you can, but it's not without effort.
Well, has it ever annoyed you of stories that you heard that maybe weren't true and places that you have been that has been blown out of proportion? I mean, there's been so many books.
Well, that's the Rashomon phenomenon, and it doesn't irk me at all. It's fascinating. In fact, in my book, there's some email correspondence between me and Franken where I ask Al questions as if I couldn't remember.
Right.
Al, what was that about when we were the comedy team that weighed the same on David Letterman? Al goes, God, Tom, I can't believe you can't remember that. And then he tells the whole story. But I actually looked at the tape of the Letterman appearance, and he had it wrong. But I don't correct him because I'm not. It's not into correcting. I get his words verbatim.
Right.
So if he makes a mistake, it's perfect.
But when these stories are out there about you and your friends, and it's got to be the strangest thing to see this kind of period of your life, which I'm sure you knew was special, but probably didn't know was as special as it turned out to be. It's got to be strange to see that move into legend now.
Oh, we had so much fun, and just remembering it makes me feel good. I mean, we had so much fun at that time, and I've tried to recreate some of that. And I guess that was the biggest success is that we made each other laugh, and sometimes it got a little strange at like 2 a.m. on Tuesday, and we got more than giddy.
Right.
But we did make each other laugh, and then you knew you were onto something when you were laughing.
Well,
it's a good sign.
Yeah, the funniest people in the world are coming together. You're creating this show that you really don't have the networks paying that much attention to, and then suddenly it starts to bubble up. The people.
Oh, we all knew that it was going to be a hit.
You knew it from the beginning.
No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, day one, I didn't know who those people were, but I knew that something wonderful was going to happen. And in fact, when I finally had a nice exchange with Michael O'Donoghue, I went back to his office. I had gone out to smoke a joint. I went over to the bushes at St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Yeah. Not always the best idea.
And
a couple of guys.
I came back up in the office, and I smelled somebody's really good pot. So I floated like Bugs Bunny smelling carrots cooking all the way up to that last door, which is Mr. Mike's office, and I knocked on the door, and I introduced myself, and that was the start of a really good friendship. I loved him.
So these So the 70s were a little different, where you could get high in the office.
Oh yeah.
Without the suits being upset about it, you were just kind of
well, they didn't like it. There was a couple times when after the show, getting on the elevator to go up to the Rainbow room where they had the party, and getting on the elevator with Tom Brokaw and a few people, and it smelled like skunk. And so we were going like, yeah, that's right. Got it right here. And once when we were gone on hiatus, and I left some pot in my office, and they painted the office, and the guy who painted my office, I could see his fingerprints with the paint. He had opened up my drawer and stolen my pot, and I called up security, and I said, the guy who painted my office stole my pot. And you can fire him, because that was expensive. And so Lorne said, next time, don't complain about them. Don't leave pot in the office. Because he heard about it.
So Lorne was in that position of wanting people like you and Al and Michael Donahue to kind of go out to the edge, bring this stuff back for the actors, but to not go over the edge. I mean, that'd be a tough position for Lorne.
What, the smell of pot?
Well,
stinking up the whole 17th floor?
Yeah. Knowing
the elections was we shared the 17th floor with elections.
Right.
So, and I made a couple of good friends over there, a couple more Grateful Dead t-shirts working in the elections department. But it just, as long as our ratings were that good, they weren't going to mess with it. But the show changed. I left with Lorne in 1980, and I came back with him in 86, and things changed then, because Lorne, people were having babies, and
right.
We weren't getting the ratings in 86. It was kind of a disaster of a year, so no more
pot.
No more smoking pot.
And actually, it starts to become somewhat corporate.
Now they do the show on Ritalin and donuts. That's what they do it.
Yeah, that's another reason why these are such legendary days, because in the 70s, the three kind of, I think, famous clubs would be Studio 54, CBGB's, and then the Blues Bar that you guys had for just your own private parties.
People assume that I went to Studio 54, and I went to those places literally once. I went because I was working. Mm-hmm. Some people had to write that show. Belushi, he went to those places.
Right.
I guess he'd show up every once in a while and with some weird look on his face. And he'd drag O'Donoghue off. O'Donoghue never felt like he had to write every week, because he'd say things like, my piece is brilliant. What piece of shit are you working on? And he'd take a couple weeks to do it and make sure it was letter perfect. And the rest of us some of us had to stay up and write that show, and it was labor intensive.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't go to CBGB's. I didn't see shows. I just worked on that show, and it took all your time.
But
all my time.
But after that,
I never was in show business. I just did shows.
You never really felt like you're part of the show business thing.
I bet if anybody in this room had as many opportunities as I had, you'd probably be millionaires. And I'm not a millionaire. But thank God for the Writers Guild, and I get my pension.
Mm. So do you look back and go, geez, I could have made a couple different moves? Or
I would recommend if anybody wants to, you should direct a film by the time you're 30. Mm-hmm. Direct a film by the time you're 30. I mean, just get one done. And just be a director, or you'll never be a director. And I wish I had done that, because I would have liked to have been a director. But the problem with making movies is that 100 people have to share your vision. And the great thing about Saturday Night Live the first 5 years is that it was a writer's show.
Right.
And the way I wrote sketches was I wanted the actors to serve the sketch. And I don't think it works that way so much anymore. There's a few graveyard spots you'll get high concept pieces, but I think the writers serve the performers, and the performers are served by the writers, and that didn't occur to me for several years.
Well, yeah, there's always stories in the early days if any of the actors messed up the sketch, the writers would go after them. And now, of course, it's personality pieces. It's laughing during the sketches and having fun. It's about those people or what's being sold. You guys felt like the actors were working for the sketch itself, for the writers.
Yeah, we and the actors were fine with that too.
Yeah.
I mean, Gilda was absolutely selfless. You could write her into a sketch, and you know, you put Belushi in, and he would always get a laugh somehow, even if he didn't know his lines. He would end up getting laughs if he had to, you know, do a flip. He'd do a flip, you know, and so, the performers would sometimes take a half-baked piece and make it sound brilliant, and we just all helped each other.
Everybody was kind of making the same kind of money. Everybody was.
In the first year, the cast decided that Jane Curtin would represent them, and that year they all got paid the same. Franken and I, at that time, there was a thing in the Writers Guild where you could hire a team for what you paid one person. So we were paid the minimum for one person. And I remember asking Mr. Mike, I said, how much are you getting paid? He said, wait a minute, how much are you getting paid? And we told him, he said, my cat gets more than that.
So at certain times did you start thinking, when's this going to pay off, or you were just enjoying the job too much? Don't worry about money.
Well, we didn't worry about money. We just wanted to get our stuff on. We didn't get our stuff on really until the first couple of shows. We were skunked, and Franken was ready to go back to L.A.
Yeah.
But I knew we should stay. He wanted to get in the cast.
Do you feel like it was your fault that the early sketches weren't getting on, or that maybe Lorne was just tougher on you guys?
No. I mean, the first thing that Lorne did when we got there was have us start writing sketches. I mean, first we did some commercial parodies that were going to be shot on film, and then he had us just write sketches, and he just threw them out. He just wanted us to get rid of our trunk stuff.
Right. The stuff you were already doing on the stage.
Didn't read them. We worked for weeks, and he just threw it out, and then started it again because he knew that every week we were going to have to write new stuff. So he didn't want us he knew that every week we were going to have to write new stuff. So he didn't want us with tried and true things or trying to pass off some of our act that wasn't our best piece and
some stuff you had done in college. Here's another piece.
Went right out the window and literally it went out the window once. Franken came up to Mr. Mike, who was sort of a head writer at the beginning. No, Herb Sargent was probably the head writer, but Mr. Mike was second oldest, so he was old to us. And Franken came up with a piece that he thought was worthy, and Mr. Mike was talking to a couple people, and Franken said, Mr. Mike, I want you to look at this. And Mr. Mike opened the window and threw it out. So it fluttered down to 49th Street. And he went back to the conversation, just started him. He and Franken didn't get along very well.
Was there any reason? I mean, it seems like you can walk in a kind of any party and slide in, but could young Al Franken fit in with any group of people?
Oh, he still can't. He's going to be a wonderful senator. I mean, he's lying low right now, but we're going to hear from him. I mean, he's a junior senator, and he's working on the health care thing, and I hear from him every once in a while, but very briefly. Hi, Tom, it's Al. I know, I can hear you. How are you? Oh, I'm fine. You know, well, I don't want to ask unless you want to talk about something other than politics. Yeah, sure. I gotta go. So I get those about once a month.
Well, you're very honest about everything in your book, and I noticed it came out after Al's very close election, because you're pretty open about any drug use and partying that anybody.
Mostly about myself. My technique was to reveal myself first, and then I showed it to when I had the manuscript. I showed it to Al.
Yeah,
and he liked it.
Right.
And I thought, wow, he didn't question anything. He liked it, And then a couple months later, I got a call back. He goes, Tom, my advisors just saw the manuscript. Do you think you could? And I said, sure, no problem. So I did take out a couple things for him, and then I sat on it until
purposely
January. We said, well, the election. We'll wait till after the election, and then. Of course, it wasn't over.
Right.
It wasn't over till June. It was like, well, wait a minute, So we published it, and I've never heard from Republicans calling up and asking about it. I think it's
just went over their head.
I don't know. I don't know. I was nobody's used it for Al's detriment, and I think Al, I've captured his brilliance in there. He is brilliant, and. I talked about my drug use, and Franken never was into drugs. I mean, well, let me put it this way. I know he never spent any money.
Right, sure. Like a chick. He seems, and I mean, you would know better than me.
I spent a small fortune.
Right. But he seems like he would be somewhat of a weak head. I don't know
he was
if we were
never
doing acid, I'd want it to be just me and Al. I'd like, could someone else be here with us?
Al's great on acid.
Really?
Yes.
Why didn't he run on that?
His brain would be just going with it, whatever it is. He was terrific on it. I mean, we wrote several sketches, including the Nixon Final Days sketch.
Was all written while you guys were tripping?
Yes. Well, it was midnight, and we didn't know what we were going to do. And I just took some, and he about an hour later said, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I'm tripping my ass off." He said, "Well, I better do some too then. Give me some."
Yeah.
And the sun came up, and there's this great sketch.
Yeah, I think I know why his advisors.
But people were walking in like Marilyn Miller came in with Lorraine, and Marilyn goes, "What's going on in here?" And Lorraine said, "Let's go." So just people left us alone. But we didn't do that but once, I think. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily because it doesn't always work out that way. But the Final Day sketch is a great sketch.
It's
really
hysterical.
Proud of it, and then we would go canoeing sometimes, and that's a great environment for psychedelics. But so that's where Wilderness Comedian.
Right.
I wrote that sketch. I don't know if you remember that. John Belushi's making animals laugh.
Yeah,
he's going to stand up.
So another sketch written on acid.
Yeah.
So were you?
And did you ever see the Royal Deluxe 2, that car where we're giving a circumcision to a baby in the back of the Royal Deluxe 2? Well, the first draft it was supposed to be Keith Richards snorting coke in the back. And Al said, "No, let's make it a circumcision.
Let's go in that direction." But for you guys, did the drugs help or hurt? I know, like I read the book Wired. That was basically about Belushi, and I kind of think what he misses there, he's got a feeling of doom right from the beginning, as if the party always had this cloud over it instead of it was a real lot of fun for a long time.
That's why we didn't like that book. And made us question Bob Woodward's other books too. It's like he got it wrong.
Maybe
because
Nixon.
Belushi was one of the funnest people to be. I mean, he was fun. He was fun to be around, and we all miss him so much because he'd drag us all the places we'd never go, and to this day, if you go to Aspen, there's people that will come up and go, "Did you know that Belushi came over to my house?"
Right.
And he'd get lost and just walk up to people's houses and knock on the door. And he'd crash there and show up the next day. "Where were you?" "I don't know. It's some doctor's house." It was in the neighborhood. And he would just crash at strangers' places. And he went through life like that. In the car, into the building, onto the plane. He was everybody's friend. He was fun. Of course, then he died. That was That was not fun, and it was not funny. So that was kind of the end of the party. I mean, nothing like a death. Okay, that's the end of the party.
Right.
And that's what happened. It really did. It was sad. I mean, this death thing. Be careful.
It can ruin everything.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I'm told it's perfectly safe. But don't think you're going to be hovering over the dinner room table listening to people's conversations. You're doing something else.
You're just going somewhere else completely.
So make sure you're done first before you go.
So, do you think it was, the pot and acid, fun, but then as you guys start to make more money, cocaine kind of money, that's where it stopped being so much fun?
Well, it's depends on your genes.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had the gene for cocaine addiction. I certainly did mountains of it, but I didn't crave it the next day, or had to have it, or I wouldn't stay up for 3 days until I crashed.
Right.
It was more of a tool for staying awake, and then 20 minutes later you could go home and go to bed too. If you take speed, you're up,
Yeah.
for 2 days. The cocaine was actually worked. But it's expensive and it's illegal, and some people have a real problem with it, and I think John did. I think he was a cocaine addict, and it didn't do him any good. But there was, I would always carry around a little dummy bottle with just a little bit in it, and he'd do it. So he didn't see how much I had.
So
I recommend that.
Yeah. So you had
You look real generous. Here, go ahead, finish it.
So you just had the Belushi left-hand front pocket amount of coke, and then the Tom Davis
the
coke.
ball over
Yeah,
there,
right. That's pure carny. I got to tell you right now, that's the perfect carny move.
Well,
of
I
all
survived.
Time. Yeah. But you bring up losing John, and it is one of those things. I think that it's kind of up there with a certain generation for losing John Lennon, even though Belushi.
And that was the end of a big party too.
Belushi meant one thing to you as your friend, but to the rest of us, we felt this connection with him without ever meeting with him. That I still feel like is a void. I still feel like that hole never got filled back up again.
Yeah. He was that sort of person that the room would change as soon as he entered. The restaurant would change. Wherever he walked in, it just changed, and he was that much fun.
Was he aware that he never got to see normal wherever he went in the
He
world?
loved it.
It was just Belushi bubbles?
He really loved it. He loved working. He loved doing the show, and he loved making movies after that. He loved his life dearly, and he lost it. He lost it, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. So it was a disaster. He was not like, I wonder if John was depressed, and if there was any purpose behind that. Did he think about? He didn't think about it. He wiped out. He screwed up. He lost it.
He just had one bad night.
Oh, a terrible night. Yeah. Well, it was probably a night and a day.
Okay, but one bad run on that. But if that wouldn't have happened, maybe he would have,
Oh yeah,
pulled back.
he was just taken off. He's just taken. I'm sure he would have, made a couple movies a year, and if he were alive today, I mean, it would be wonderful. But he died in '82, and let's see, I don't do math anymore. How long ago was that?
For like 28 years as we're doing this.
28.
And,
that's a long time ago.
It is as just about
I'm old.
Yeah.
It's great, Getting old, it's not so bad. It's like drugs a lot. You can't remember things, and you go in there, what was I going to get in the room? Where did I park the car?
For you, though, did that change partying where suddenly you were worrying about how much you were doing, or other people?
People were worried about me.
Yeah.
People came up to me at John's wake and said so. They said, Davis, we worry about you too. And Mr. Mike, somebody said, here, Davis, here's a year's supply of something. And he said, yeah, to him, that's like about 2 weeks, right, Tom? And I took a hit off a crack pipe in a room full of strangers, and when I woke up, I was on the floor in a pool of spittle, and they were talking about what to do with the body. And I got up, clicked my heels, bid them good evening, and walked out. That's the last time I took a hit off a crack pipe.
Yeah.
One hit I took, and I never did it again, And I will say that now I don't do drugs like that. I don't. But if anybody's got some.
No. I just got a little bit in my front left-hand pocket. For you, that was always more about pot and acid, though. I mean, for you, it's about...
I still smoke pot.
For about creativity, but the acid is... You're finally off that bandwagon?
I go to Burning Man.
So, you'll
have... What do you think I'm doing at Burning Man? I mean, the old people do acid, the young people do the ecstasy.
Yeah, right. No time for the ecstasy.
No, I like the ecstasy, too.
So, the purpose of doing acid for you now, still at this point, I mean, any experimentation, it's behind you, right? I mean, you're not like, what can I get out of this?
LSD is, if you've done it a lot, it changes the experience. So it's not that odd when I do it, and I do it a couple times a year. Mm-hmm. You know, I just blow out the carbs. If I go up camping or something like that, but I don't answer the phone.
No, don't do that.
You know, let the answer machine get it.
The still not updated from the answer machine, Tom. No, still got the old answer machine.
No, I hit the delete button.
Yeah. So for you, it's all still alive. I know you brought up the Dead a couple times. You were friends with Jerry Garcia, and also you do a chapter in your book about your friendship with Timothy Leary. Mm-hmm. So for you, all that stuff, it's more than just entertainment. It is something you believe in.
Yeah, those Jerry Garcia and Timothy Leary didn't just experiment. They were the experiment. Mm. And they were amazing people. Jerry was probably the greatest man I ever met. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant, self-educated, never saw him at a loss for words, a genuine wit. He was wonderful, a great guy, and lots of fun. Lots of fun. And Timothy Leary was my friend, and he would do powerful drugs and then give press conferences. And, you know, he had that sort of mind. I mean, he was a psychologist, a really good psychologist, and he did a lot of clinical work before the drugs happened, and then it did change him.
Sure.
And some people say he did burn out a little bit, but I don't know. That just comes with age too. I don't know. But he did a lot of really good work, and then he did work with prisoners and using mescaline, and it was very successful. So the government got rid of that.
Sure.
And he got fired. They ended that right away because they didn't want to succeed at rehabilitating prisoners.
How strange was it, though, for you? You're fans of the Dead, and I'm sure you had read about Leary, and then because of you being a comedy writer, being able to hang out with these people, and I guess you tripped with Leary before.
I'm not sure. The first time I met him, we had the same college booking agent, and G. Gordon Liddy was there.
Sure, why wouldn't he be?
And I walked in because he and G. Gordon Liddy had an
right. I remember.
I mean, they were both out of prison trying to raise some money, so they became a team. And G. Gordon Liddy saw me and he said, "I saw you the last week on Saturday Night Live. You did me," and I had indeed played G. Gordon Liddy on Weekend Update with Lorraine Newman interviewing me, and because his book had just come out. What was the name of it? G. Gordon Liddy's book. Anyway, there was a famous story in it about him holding his hand over a candle to impress his office mates on his ability to control himself and his fearlessness. And so as I'm being interviewed, Lorraine is asking me, you said in your book that you would kill people if you were ordered to it. He says, yes, I'd kill you now if they told me to do it, or I'd kill myself if I had to. And she goes, that's amazing. I understand you were going to dose somebody with LSD. Whom did you dose? And G. Gordon Liddy says, Jerry Garcia, Timothy Leary, and Ed Muskie. And then they pull back, and I'm barbecuing my hand. I've got a little hibachi going with smoke, and I'm putting barbecue sauce on. I had a little piece of barbecued rib in my fingers, and I bit it off and ate it. Got that response from the whole audience. And so G. Gordon Liddy invited me into the thing. He said, that was really funny. I really liked it. I said, thank you, G. Gordon. And then I looked over, and there was this gaggle of girls talking, and in the middle was Dr. Timothy Leary with a cigarette in one hand and a paper cup full of champagne in the other. And I walked over there, and I was grinning at him, and I was listening to him manipulate the conversation to try to get young people to elicit their opinion and then start an argument. And he came over and he said, hello, I'm Timothy Leary. I said, I know. I've got great smoke and great coke. He said, let's go. We went over to the Mayflower Hotel, and by the time we got up to his room, we were best friends. And we were pals for 15 years, till he died.
At how many times would that just kind of click in your head that I can't believe I'm here with these people? I mean, you're a guy from the Midwest. Yeah.
Well, I had I kept seeing guys that looked like Francis Ford Coppola for a long time because I always wanted to meet him. And I finally met him. He did a show in '86, but I kept chasing around people that looked like Francis Ford Coppola, and I did see people that looked like Timothy Leary before I met him. And I once had the experience of Jerry Garcia was sitting in my car. While I went into the Extra Mart to buy some Yoo-Hoo soda for him and some orange juice and club soda and vodka for me. And when I came out, there was this street person, hippie, who was going, man, you look like Jerry Garcia. And he said, yeah, I get that a lot.
All right, Tom, I'm ready to do acid with you now. We're at that point. Because maybe that's why the acid that you can handle it so well is that so many things that have already happened to you in your daily life are pretty trippy. I mean, it's a strange ride you've been on all these years.
Yeah, well, it's also nice having really pure LSD. And, you know, the pure LSD is suitable for getting things done. You can get stuff done unless you take a huge dose. And
right.
You know, forget it. But the quality has a lot to do with it. And certainly with the Grateful Dead, that was really true. They had Owsley Stanley, who supported that band for the first few years through his LSD sales, and he would, you know, the band was doing LSD on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And for every show. And the audience was doing the LSD. So there was this real psychedelic rapport with the audience, and it made the music as wonderful as it was. It really changed things, and it transformed things, and it was like a religious experience. And I don't know if it could be like that again, but it was like that in those days. And LSD, I don't know if the Grateful Dead would have happened without it.
Is that right? You think they needed it as a product, or they were a product of
the Grateful Dead as a band? Yes, yeah. I mean, Jerry was a great banjo picker, and he loved folk music, and but he liked smoking pot. He really liked to smoke pot. So one thing led to another, but that LSD makes a difference.
I wanted to ask you about...
And they did when they were on the show the first time, you know, the Grateful Dead are sticklers about their sound system and getting the sound right. And the union guys were like, hey, fuck you, you know, we do the sound here just fine, thank you very much. And then I heard Ramrod was saying, well, maybe we should put some in the coffee machine. I said, those are my union guys. Don't do that. That would not be cool. You guys, don't worry, Davis. We just said that to see what you do. You know, but boy, that would have been.
It was always close with those, right, guys? Well, didn't the Blues Brothers get dosed by them when you guys did?
Yeah, they were trying to. They came in after the Grateful Dead were on Saturday Night Live. We were invited. The whole show was invited out there to do New Year's Eve,
right.
Where the Blues Brothers opened for the Grateful Dead. So Steve Cropper and Al Rubin and all those guys were going, don't set down your drink. Don't drink off of someone else's thing. And Steve Cropper finally says, I think I know how they got me. It was in the water, in the cooler when we reached in and it went through the skin. And they were putting acid on the tips of Jerry's cigarettes, his Camels. So, he'd, in the end that he stuck in his mouth and then let it, and everybody backstage was like,
And it's, for me, it would be difficult. I didn't plan on tripping, but now I know I'll spend the next 10, 12 hours. I'm going to cancel the dentist appointment. Just stay here for a while.
The dental office, not a good idea to take acid and go to the dentist. The gas, though, that's what that gas is for.
Oh, sure, it's always available.
I used to get that to get my teeth cleaned. They'd have to get that hose to reach all the way into the hygienist's office.
One of the chapters, and I've never seen this in a book, is just called "Fuck Johnny Carson." I think most people would be surprised to see that as a chapter heading.
Fuck them. The reason that chapter is entitled "Fuck Johnny Carson" was that was every stand-up comedian's raison d'etre. Was to get on the Carson show, as we called it, and we were trying to get on the Carson show too. So Franken and Davis, Don Novello, Gabe Kaplan was a contemporary of ours, and he got on, and there was another guy, Steve Lebetkin, that we auditioned for the Carson show, and we got turned down. And on the way back, Steve Lebetkin's going, I can't believe it. I got turned down by Carson. That's all my best stuff. And it's like, fuck Johnny Carson. We'll do other stuff. Steve Lebetkin jumped off the Hyatt House roof a week later and landed in the parking lot of the comedy store, which is where we were all auditioning. And Al asked me, he said, why did he do it? Why did he do it? And I said, well, I guess he lost his sense of humor. And fuck Johnny Carson, but he took it too seriously.
Particularly since
people,
HBO was
crawled all over each other to get on the show,
Right.
and we never got on when Johnny was there. We were counterculture, and that chapter has got all my Carson stories in one place.
Because you guys did end up on the show kind of by...
Well, we saw it. Jay Leno was one of our contemporaries, and we knew him from doing. Every time we would go to a club, Jay Leno had been there the week before. He was the hardest working guy in the show, and he had a great act. I loved the stuff they used to do about his mother. Yeah, his mother was a real character. But we got on the airplane, and there was Jay Leno had just gotten doing the Tonight Show, and said, "Hey, you guys, you should do the show." and so, hey, that's a good idea. And so we I think Franken and I had just broken up at that time, but there was Jay Leno all of a sudden, and so we came reunited to do the Carson show, and we had this sketch that was an interview. It was like a Bob and Ray kind of interview talk show kind of thing, where it was an expert on bulimia who was very neurotic himself. And Al played this guy who was an expert on a women's health, and bulimia is very, just kind of a Woody Allen character. And it was a funny bit. And we did the bit, went over, the audience liked it. We walked over to panel, and we sat on panel. I didn't say a word. Franken answered some question, but nothing happened. Then the show's over, the credits are going, and Freddie DeCordova, the famous producer of the Tonight Show, comes over and goes, "Say, you guys, bulimia is a real serious disease. So we cut your performance, but we left the panel in." And Franken got up and said, "God damn it, we submitted that script 2 weeks ago. You could have said something. We had an alternative to do, and you got to put it back in the show." And Freddie DeCordova was saying, "Nobody talks to me that way. Not in 30 years of doing this show has anyone talked to me in front of this audience." The audience was going out, starts coming back in to watch this Clash of the Titans, and they're yelling at each other, and they disappear. And I'm still sitting on the couch, and the lights come down. I'm sitting out there all alone, and Franken comes back and goes, "Well, we're back in." I got him. They edited us back in, and I said, "Wow, you should be a senator." Gets things done, and he'll do it for you too.
We promised some of the people here they could ask you some questions. 39 years of short-term memory loss. Tom Davis's book is now out in paperback, and as we said, it's a lot of fun. What about over here? This wherever you're going.
How you doing?
Good.
Why do you think a lot of the sketches that they make from SNL happen to go on to movies, and a lot of them actually fail? Why do you think that?
Well,
happens?
It's possible that it just wasn't a good idea for a film. Now, the one that I'm familiar with is the Coneheads movie, and I was dismayed by a couple of things. For one thing, the big joke with the Coneheads was that it was done for television, which is talking heads. So Danny and I decided, let's get really huge talking heads that go out of the frame. Out of the frame, heads so big you don't see the top of them. And when I came to the set of the movie, I saw the Coneheads were small, and I started to panic, and I went up. And this is why they usually, you get rid of the writer is the first thing you do when you make a movie. But I was told, well, the director said he couldn't fit it in the frame. I'm like, yeah, exactly. And then they replaced Lorraine Newman. They got a younger, a very young, beautiful starlet to play the part of Connie. So they broke up the act. And then Lorne was talking about he just had his first child, and he was talking about the Saturday Night Live audience was all having children, and he wanted this to be like a crossover movie and not too scary for the kids. And I said, Lorne, the Coneheads are all about sex and violence. That's what they're about. And no one knows more about the Coneheads except for me, and no one knows more about the Coneheads than me. And he says, no one knows more about the television sketch, the Coneheads, than you. And so I said, okay, all right, let's see what happens. And it didn't work. Now, Lorne never came up to me and said, you know what, Tom, you were right. You never get, people never come back to you and say, you know what, you were right. It just doesn't happen. As it turns out, that was my movie, and it bombed. Yeah. And Lorne went on, made huge movies. Danny went on, made great movies, and that was my legacy. Was that bomb? That was my movie. You know? Oh, it's all right. I got paid that year.
I was just wondering what a couple of differences were between writing for the show in the 70s and then coming back and writing for it in the late 80s and 90s.
I had a great experience when Dan Aykroyd hosted but in 2005, I think. Danny brought me back with him, and we wrote some sketches, and stuff got on the air, and I loved that show. And I thought maybe Lorne would submit that for the Emmys, but he didn't. He submitted the one with Al Gore, and Franken came back to work on that show with Al Gore, and it was never got a nomination. But Danny, if you look at that show, there's Danny. He's older, he's fat, his hair is falling out. Still the funniest guy in the world. Still Danny, still the best writer, the best performer that's ever done that show. Now, I also saw a show after the writers' strike when Tina Fey hosted, and that was just an excellent show. That was as good as any show that we ever did. That was as good as that Steve Martin show that we did in '78. So they still can do it over there too, but I still think that they serve the actors too much, that the writing serves the actors and not enough of the actors serving the writing. And I'm a writer, so that's what I think. But I never miss that show. I watch it. I think those people are wonderfully talented, and it's still young, and that's Lorne's idea, to keep it young. And I think he's right. I mean, look, he discovered Tina Fey, Will Ferrell, Mike Myers. As long as he keeps discovering these people, they're gonna go over budget and not complain over there.
Well, what is it about Lorne that now he's 35 years into this thing and can still find stars? I mean, it's got to be a very difficult thing to find the next
genius.
star. Yeah.
He is terrifically funny. He comes from a great tradition. I mean, he was half of the comedy team of Lorne and Hart. They did their own show on the Canadian network. He went out to Hollywood and did Lily Tomlin specials, and then he got Saturday Night Live was his baby. Lorne's a genius, and he's funny and talented himself, and he's a good writer. So he's brilliant.
There's always this thing
and so
about
he can
Lorne.
do that, and he's very happy in the role of kingmaker over there.
I noticed, though, that there is a certain type of person.
I keep pointing at the building over
it
there.
is. We can actually see it from here.
I know this. I know every underground way around.
I'm wondering
we
if
used to crawl all over these buildings.
Lorne's over there with, field glasses. What the hell is Davis up to across the... but there are certain people that it seemed like they wanted even more for him. There's certain men and women who have done the show. They're just like, I don't know whether Lorne liked me enough or he was too cold.
Well, that's show business. I mean,
daddy issues.
I'm one of those people too who I mean, I did great on Saturday Night Live, and I never really went anyplace else. I never got my movie made really, and when Franken and I broke up, I thought about doing stand-up, but then I thought, I've already done my time in hell.
Right.
Really, I'd rather visit a death camp than do a comedy club. But that's me. And now I've got a book, and it's fun to come and talk to you all like this, and I don't have to do the act. Isn't that right, Al? It's hard to change.
Yeah.
But my brain still works the way it always has. In my briefcase, did I just knock over the water? I had the top. In my briefcase, I have a notebook, and whenever I have a funny idea, I write it in there. And that's just force of habit. And about 1 out of 10 of them is good. That's about the percentage that in the old days too. But I'm still good in a pitch meeting. I'm really good at a pitch meeting. 'Cause I always got, but things that you pitch aren't always good on a sketch. Is what you find out. But I love Saturday Night Live. It'll be a sad day when that show ends because it's a dinosaur. But what a dinosaur!
Yeah.
And it's something that's really interesting is the cue cards. Because the cue card guys know where and when to interrupt a sentence. And teleprompters, you'll see people pausing in the worst possible place. And teleprompters do that. And cue cards don't. And they still use cue cards over there. And I don't know of any show that has people with those big magic markers. And
they change them all the time.
One of our cue card guys died of a heart attack. Because we would make changes in the middle of the show, and they'd have to use masking tape and get them over. And Dan Aykroyd could read cue cards that he'd never seen before, and we could change it while it was on the air. And I didn't get to him to tell him that it had been changed. He could read peripherally, and you wouldn't know that he was reading. He could read them cold, and I've never met anybody that could do that.
We know a guy, Wally, who does the cue card stuff over there.
Wally's
terrific. He's so much great. He says when he's introduced to the guest star, they always ignore him in the beginning, like, whatever, thanks, kid. And by, like, Saturday, they're like, where are you going to be standing? You're the greatest. And they just want to hold him. They give him
presents by the end of the week.
Yeah.
He's getting sweaters and bottles of champagne.
It doesn't matter who it is when they, like, he meets them on Monday.
And then you go meet the lighting guy, too. You got to get along with the lighting person and the cue card people. You better.
More questions over here.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, where did the idea for John Belushi's Little Donuts come from?
That was Franken and I were sitting up in the office, and John was. We just thought it'd be funny if he was on a Wheaties box, and it said, "Well, how about if we do like an endorsement for Little Chocolate Donuts?" And John with a cigarette in the package of Little Chocolate Donuts. And then we went to some high school, and we did this thing. I'm in it. I play the part of the guy from the Soviet CCP, and the long distance running thing. And John beats it past me right at the tape, and John Belushi wins another gold medal, and what's his secret? And then he cuts to the product shot of him with the cigarette, and it went over really well, but it was just a natural thing. But I remember that there was some little kids that were watching there, and the littlest kid goes, "I like that fat guy." And John heard that, and he wouldn't come out of his trailer for 20 minutes. All of a sudden, his knee was hurting, and it's like, oh, get that kid out of here.
Was it more fun to do it like tape pieces like that, or did you like having live and having the laugh right there?
I like both.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to have some control over, when you pre-tape something, then you got that, and it's a sure thing. But there's no performance trumps everything else, and on live TV, a live performance, you'll just get things that you'll never get anyplace else.
How tough was it, though?
The fact that it's live is, it's really important to understand that. People used to come up and say, "When do you film that show?" As a matter of fact, that happened as soon as we got off the stage, the first time we won an Emmy, they took all the writers for writing. We're holding the statuette. The first question from the press was, "How much of that is actually written?"
Yeah. The reporters always want to believe that everything is improvised. Everybody's Robin Williams.
Explain. No, they just don't know their lines. That's why they stumble on. Those things are written.
Did you have problems with hosts that didn't have comedic timing? People that, you write something in a certain way.
Well, that was really charming sometimes to have like an athlete.
No.
For one thing, athletes are fearless. We had Joe Montana on, we had Fran Tarkenton, I think was our first athlete, Fran Tarkenton. And these guys, once you've had 300-pound guys chasing you to try to kill you, you're not worried about the sketch that you're going to be.
Sure.
You just, over there's my lines. Okay. And there's no sweat with those guys. And they make really good hosts for that reason. That they don't feel like they have to be in every sketch, too.
Right.
So sometimes it's nice to have somebody who's not a comedian, who doesn't have that timing, and then you just write around them. And it's okay. But, Steve Martin. If you have Steve Martin on the show, every time Steve Martin was on the show when I worked there, we knew it was going to be a fabulous show because he just did it. And we, Richard Pryor was always the highest rated show. That I don't know if they've ever done a better share than that. I'm sure they haven't.
Paul Mooney was in here saying that he had written some of the stuff for that show, but wasn't getting credit for it after the fact. Do you remember it that way, or
didn't he get credit? He sure took a lot of credit.
I know. I think at some point Chevy said that him and Richard had kind of.
In fact, Alan and I helped him write something else on Sunday after the show, and he still owes me money. But Paul Moody's a funny guy. He's a contemporary of mine.
Yeah.
And how come he doesn't look old?
I don't understand that.
What is that? I mean, I'm gray. I'm 57. I look at, what is Paul Mooney doing? I don't know.
I think
looks great.
Paul Mooney may be a vampire. And
he owes everybody money.
How closely were you working with Bill Murray on the Nick the Lounge Singer?
I worked on every one of those.